We will now reconvene into open session. The time is now 7:08. If you'll please rise and join us in the pledges of allegiance. Okay, we'd like to consider action on items discussed in closed session. Do I have a motion? For our first item, personnel recommendation.
I move that all personnel recommendations are approved as presented by administration.
Thank you, Ms. Hassett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. It's a motion by Ms. Hassett and a second by Ms. Prosnick. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And do I have a motion for our second item, administrative contracts?
I'll make that motion. I move that all administrative contract recommendations for school year 2017-2018 be approved as presented by administration.
Thank you, Ms. Sells. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Cox. It's a motion by Ms. Sells, a second by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that too is unanimous. All right. Okay. Yes, I'll let you go ahead and come on up, Ms. Brim. We're going to move into our recognition portion of the agenda. And so I'd like to invite Ms. Amanda Brim. She's our Executive Director of Communications, and she will help highlight our recognitions for this month.
As normal, we have a state championship to celebrate, so just kind of regular working order in Lewisville. Tonight, our first recognition is Lewisville High School state champ cheerleaders.
Lewisville High School cheerleaders have had a record-breaking year, dominating multiple state and national championships. The victorious journey began back in November, when the team placed second in the game day division at the UCA Regionals. At the beginning of this year, in Fort Worth, they competed in the 2017 UIL Spirit State Championships. The team won first in the band dance category and first in the cheer category, which helped them bring home the overall state championship title. Following their state win, the team continued on to the National High School Cheerleading Championships in Orlando, Florida. They placed fifth in the large co-ed competition division and first in the large co-ed game day division, earning them the national title. In addition, these students were recognized by the Texas Girls Coaches Association with all-state team honors, as well as these students taking home academic all-state team honors. Congratulations, Lewisville High School cheerleaders.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Lyles. I'm one of the Assistant Athletic Directors for the district, and it's my pleasure to introduce Jill Van Klink, the head coach for the Lewisville High School State Championship cheerleading squad. Congratulations.
There we go. Okay. Hi. I'm going to just take a minute and recognize everyone who's up here on the stage. They all played a vital role in bringing home the state championship, and then they worked really hard together, and we brought home a national championship. We are defending back-to-back national champs, which is really exciting. So on the far end is one of our captains, Angel Pierce. And then I'm going to move down here so I can see everybody. Sorry. Andrea Ponce is next, Bailey Payne, Amy Jo Pierce, Jalen Roberson, Katie Rodriguez, Deja Evans, Hannah Sun, Rivers Brackett, Alexanne Rhodes, Miranda Oliva, Scarlett Allen, Mia Taylor, Trinity Kulo, Kaylee Dean, Peyton Turo, Lauren McCullough, Destiny Hister, Devin Wilkinson, our other captain, Landon Gage, Tyler Carver, Clara Raper, and Chloe Goodman. We are missing 5 of our members tonight. They cannot be with us, but they are probably working on cheer, even though they're not here with us tonight. So these guys did a great job, and we're incredibly proud of them and represented Lewisville well. Picture.
Okay, our next recognition is Flower Mound High School girls soccer coach, Sapos.
Flower Mound High School head girls soccer coach Michelle Sapos was named the National Federation of State High School Association's 2016 Coach of the Year, as well as the NSCAA 2016 Texas Coach of the Year. Sapos joined FMHS as the girls' head soccer coach in the beginning of the 2015-2016 school year, where he led the team all the way to claim the UIL 6A state championship title. He holds a record of 377, 129, and 67 as a high school head coach from 1990 until 2017, with 26 playoff appearances. Additional award accomplishments include District Coach of the Year 10 times and Regional Coach of the Year 4 times. He was named the Fort Worth Star-Telegram Coach of the Year in 1996 and 2000, Arlington Morning News Coach of the Year in 2000, and the Dallas Morning News Coach of the Year in 2002 and 2016. Congratulations, Coach Sapos.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Lell, and I'm principal at Flower Mound High School. It's my honor tonight to help recognize Coach Sapos. Coach Sapos has been my head coach, girls soccer, for the last 2 years. He's a veteran of girls soccer, coaching for 28 years. And of those 28 years, he has an unbelievable stat. He has gone to playoffs 27 out of 28 years. So we are very, very pleased and happy to honor him. Help me honor him tonight.
Everybody smile. Our next recognition is Hebron High School Band Director Andy Seeley.
The UIL announced Hebron High School's band director Andy Seeley as one of only 15 recipients across the state to receive the 2016 UIL Sponsor Excellence Award. The award was created to identify and recognize outstanding sponsors who enable students to develop and refine their extracurricular talents to the highest degree possible within the education system. Seeley has been involved in UIL music competitions for 31 years. During that time, he has directed bands to the UIL State Marching Band Contest 10 times, coming away with 5 top 10 finishes and 1 gold medal and 3 silver. He has also led students to many outstanding performance awards at the UIL Texas State Solo and Ensemble Contests. Seeley will receive $1,000 and a symbolic memento from the UIL in recognition of his outstanding achievements in the pursuit of educational excellence through interscholastic competition. Congratulations, Mr. Seeley.
Hello, I'm Scott Finch, principal of Hebron High School. It's my honor this afternoon or this evening to recognize Mr. Andy Seeley. Andy has been our band director for many years and has enjoyed great success. They're recently back from the Midwest Conference in Chicago in the wintertime and finishing second in the state in the UIL Marching Band Contest this past fall. Mr. Seeley is being recognized tonight for the UIL Award of Excellence. We did give that to him at a concert previously to tonight. He says he still has that, and so we trust that that's still in his possession. But, Mr. Seeley is an outstanding person. He is also the pending and upcoming president of the Texas Music Educators Association, better known as TMEA. Would you please give a warm welcome and congratulations to Andy Seeley.
Literally running, like she's legit running. Okay. Very small. Next is adaptive PE teacher Jim Domer.
Special Olympics Texas recently announced the winners of its statewide 2016 Volunteer Awards. Among the 5 recipients of these awards, Lewisville ISD's adaptive physical education teacher Jim Domer was named the Unified Partner of the Year. Domer was also the 2009 statewide Volunteer of the Year and has been devoting his time to the SOTX for more than 30 years. Among his many roles, he has served as the head of delegation for LISD Special Olympics, where he has been a certified coach of 9 sports, a unified partner, and has aided in securing facilities for practices. He became a unified partner when the softball team that he was coaching did not have enough players to play. He formed a team with parents and friends, but still needing an extra player, he decided to play as well. One of his nominators shared how Coach Domer always puts athletes' interests first and makes sure that they have a fair and fun experience when competing in delegation. Congratulations, Coach Domer.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing the most popular man in the room tonight, Jim Domer. He's been with Lewisville ISD for 34 years. 30 years he's also spent devoted to Special Olympics. So I can't be more proud.
Well, I'll just say something real quick. the board, we're an envy of every Special Olympics group in the state of Texas because of the support that we get from LISD. There's a lot of Special Olympics groups out there that do not get the support that we do, and I just want to tell you how much I really appreciate everybody up here. Thank you so much, from all our athletes to all our parents. Thank you so much.
We might need to. Oh, okay. There you go.
One more. And finally, tonight we have the Texas School Counseling Association Crest Awards.
In 2005, Texas School Counselor Association began a program called CREST to recognize schools with outstanding counseling programs. This year, 7 LISD schools were recognized for excellence in school counseling. LISD CREST winners for 2016 school year are Hebron High School, LHS Harmon High School, Marcus High School, Downing Middle School, Coyote Ridge, Morningside, and Peters Colony Elementary Schools. CREST stands for Counselors Reinforcing Excellence for Students in Texas. The schools receiving CREST awards have demonstrated a commitment using the school guidance and counseling program to improve the lives and achievement of students in academic, career, and personal social domains. Congratulations to our 7 schools for being nominated among a group of only 62 schools across the state to win the CREST Award for Counseling Excellence for 2016.
Good evening. My name is Monya Crow, and I am the Director of Counseling here for Lewisville ISD, and we could not be more proud of the counselors that we have here on this stage. As you heard in the video, Texas only gave out 62 awards this year for excellence in counseling at the campus level, and we are proud that LISD came home with 7 of those. So I wanted to read quickly to you the names of these lovely ladies on the stage and thank all of their principals as well for their support. So for Morningside Elementary, we have Debbie Plemons, Coyote Ridge, Stephanie Moore, Peters Colony, Manoush Sayeri and Anna Amaya. Downing Middle School, Ann Lehue and Ashley Isaacs. From the LHS Harmon campus, we have Claudia Smith and Aaron Summers. From Marcus High School, we have Cheryl Ritchie, Nina Johnston, Kim Sarter, Lindsay Biggs, Christina Beck, and Kelly Young. And finally, from Hebron High School, we have Tracy Schinkel, Dominique Scott, Marlene Hood, Janelle Varvel, Latasha Rayford, and Kim Klingon. Please join me in appreciating all of the wonderful work they did.
Okay, well, before we move into the rest of our meeting, I just remember that I never welcomed anybody. So my apologies. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Just as a reminder, meetings of the board are open to the public, but are not meetings of the public. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly in a regular meeting to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. We receive the agenda and all supporting documentation approximately 10 days in advance of regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions in advance of the meeting tonight. Just as a reminder, there are students and other guests present. To maintain decorum, we ask that respectful behavior is followed. Disruptive behavior and or comments will not be allowed. We thank you for joining us here tonight and look forward to the rest of our meeting. And now we will move into the open forum portion of our meeting to hear requests to address the board. Persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees must fill out a speaker's card prior to the meeting. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. That time will be on the screen, so we ask speakers to be aware of that. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. So our first speaker tonight is Kimberly Poe.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to my concerns tonight. I'm coming to you to speak further about DOI. I am a teacher's wife and I have 3 kids in the LISD schools, one of which was in the 3rd grade at Prairie Trails Dual Language Program. I come to you again to implore the board not to rush into DOI. I would love to have a better calendar, but at what cost? The more I looked into DOI, the more questions arose. Some of my main concerns are with teacher certifications, class size, and most importantly, how easy it seems to be to amend the plan in the future years when all of you may not be sitting on the board. In just the past 3 years, we have had a different superintendent, a different board president, and 5 of the 7 new board members. Situations do change. Our current board seems invested in our kids and willing to listen to our concerns. But with the entire board up for re-election during the 3-year cycle, 2 of you this year, I'm just not so certain that you'll be in control during the 5-year term that the DOI will be in effect. There are too many unknowns after talking with a few board members. I don't see direct benefits for the children and the teachers. Who will be subject to the DOI? So why the rush? And why hold our calendar hostage with the DOI? Voting to continue the DOI process today still holds our calendar up, since the final DOI vote can't come before April. DOI is more than a calendar. Your small statement in the calendar survey stated otherwise. But what was not clear was the potential cost of the DOI plan. Why rush this plan that can have unintended consequences for our total potential cost of a DOI plan? Why rush it when the kids and teachers for 5 years have to put up a calendar that's just in place for now? There are no do-overs for those children who might get caught in some of the bad decisions or short-sighted verbiage. And times are good now, but economic circumstances could change, requiring a more financially driven use of a DOI plan that could impact teacher planning periods, class size, certifications, and the earnest efforts to balance the budget. Finally, I realized how few parents are even aware of this initial DOI plan vote. There will be even fewer if the school board wants to amend the DOI plan down the road, possibly rephrasing items, adding previously unused aspects like class size or teacher planning time. Amending seems too easy. It's a lot to gamble here, don't you think? So there's little data, even on the benefits of the DOI plan, because it's all new. So I leave you with this question to consider. Are you the type of person that downloads the newest phone updates immediately, that they come out? Or do you wait and see what bugs are there and what fixes are needed to be done before you download? I prefer to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank Vaughn.
Hi, I'm Frank Vaughn, Lewisville, Texas. One thing that is so cool about Lewisville is the diversity of the kids we have. I mean, you saw those people line up from Lewisville High School, those cheerleaders. That was really awesome. And I'm really happy to be in a district that supports and nurtures those kind of kids. So what I request to you guys is, you have a system of electing trustees that you've inherited, and it's been in place for a long time. And I think you guys have the opportunity to change that so we can have the trustees match the diversity of the district. We can do single-member districts. That's allowed by the state. You guys can vote on it and approve it. But the problem with single-member districts is it gets fractional. People start fighting against each other. There's some real limitations there. But it does give us somebody to call if we have a concern, somebody who we will elect in an area. The other option is cumulative voting. Cumulative voting is done by almost 120 districts now in the state of Texas. It was allowed in 1995, signed in place by Governor Bush, then Governor Bush. It allows an alternative to single-member district. You get representation that characterizes government at all levels. It's done in council voting and also school board voting. Cumulative voting is allowed by the district when the board of trustees allows it. So you guys can allow it, and it's done. If you decide not to do that, you could do single-member districts. If you don't do that, then the only option is a petition drive to force single-member districts, and then it goes to a vote for the whole school, the school voting population. So I just ask you to please think about what we can do to teach these kids. You guys are teachers, you're examples, okay? And I would like to challenge you guys to be an example and get people on the board who represent the students and that they can look forward to. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker of the evening is Ana Olvera Myers.
Is it? Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I'm here to talk to you about also the District of Innovation. The first time I heard anything about this was when the calendar survey was sent to parents to vote on it. To me, it seemed like it was just a small part that it was kind of like sneaked in to vote on just a calendar. And in there, to be able to vote on it, I believe it said that you have to understand what DOI meant to be able to put your vote on the different calendar options. So then I took the time to read a little bit more about it to try to understand, but it didn't seem like it was clearly presented, straightforward and transparent to the parents what DOI was. I just read a little bit more about it on my own, and then asking other parents about it. And it still is not clear enough to the regular parent, some of the terms used in there. So as a concerned parent of 2 kids in the school district, I have a couple questions. One of these is, can these innovations brought about the DOI, can these be lower than what current standards are? And are there any guarantees that they're not lower what current standards are? Also, I read that some exceptions apply of becoming a DOI. And are any of these exemptions to get out of meeting some state requirements? That's a concern that I have. And also, if this is approved, how soon will these changes be implemented? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move into our information item portion of the agenda. And these are items that will be coming forward. Really, I guess all of these are just for information only. So we'll allow for some questions at the end, since these will not come back through the process. So we will start with Dr. Rapp and our annual pre-K update.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We're pleased this evening to have Kathy Hawley with us and Miss Adrienne Gall back there in the seats as well to talk about our wonderful pre-K programs. Our campuses do a great job, and we're proud in learning and teaching to be able to support them in that effort.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again about our pre-kindergarten program. As Dr. Rapp mentioned and has shared with you in the past, pre-kindergarten is required by the state of Texas in the districts that have at least 15 eligible 4-year-olds, and we may offer it for children who are 3 years old if they meet the state eligibility criteria. LISD does offer both of those programs for both the 3 and 4-year-olds, and it is funded in the state of Texas right now as a half-day program for those who meet those state eligibility criteria, which I'll go over in just a moment. The eligibility criteria for state funding is a little complicated, but it's for a good reason, to address those students who might be most at risk as they're entering the school situation. So we have a number of students in our program who are unable to speak and comprehend English. They are our English learners. We also have a number of students who are educationally disadvantaged. Their families qualify for the free and reduced lunch. There's an economic need in the home. We also would have children who would be homeless, children who are currently or have been in state of Texas foster care, and children who are dependent of military personnel on active duty or of someone who was injured or killed in active military duty. In LISD, those first two are, of course, the most common reasons that our children qualify. Some of the optional things that we have under the state criteria, the state program for pre-kindergarten, is that we can choose to offer an additional half day for students who meet the eligibility criteria. We can charge tuition for that, or we can use district funds for that. In LISD right now, we're using tuition funds. The parents pay tuition for their children to stay all day. We also have the option to provide half day or full day pre-kindergarten for children who do not meet the eligibility criteria. And again, we do offer that at a tuition rate. Again, the vast majority of children in our program do meet the eligibility criteria, but I wanted to be sure that you're aware that we do have some tuition options available. Within the LISD program, our typical classroom is what you see in that blue cylinder with children who meet those state eligibility criteria. We have some classrooms that are all 4-year-olds, some that are all 3-year-olds, and quite a few that are really a mixture of those, but the children all fall under those eligibility criteria. In places where we have room, we also add in tuition students as the parents are interested in participating, so the children are mixed in the same classroom. And then in some of our classrooms, we also have students who've been identified with special needs requiring special education services. So those are students with individual education plans. Some of them are actually pre-K eligible anyway, but they are included in the pre-kindergarten program, as research shows that is a very strong model for early intervention. The enrollment growth in LISD since the program began in 2004 has been quite amazing. It's more than tripled during that time. You'll notice it's been kind of stable the last few years, but if you consider the drop in enrollment in elementary school, it's really, keeping up quite well with the changes in our population. When we look at the difference between our pre-K3 and our pre-K4, about a third of our students are 3-year-olds and about 2/3 are 4-year-olds. Even though we know that statistically there ought to be about the same number, we still find more parents of 4-year-olds who are enrolling their children in the program. The pie graph on the right shows the eligibilities of our students. It was shocking to me the first time I saw this to see that there was such a large percentage. 57% of them are both English learners and economically disadvantaged. It's not that they're one or the other, they are both. And as you can see, we have another 14% who are English learners only, about 20-some% that are there for economic reasons, and just a sliver of that pie are for children who are foster children or those who are homeless or dependent of military personnel. But more than half of the children in our program are both economically disadvantaged and limited in their English proficiency. There's a lot of talk about, what makes a pre-kindergarten program high quality. And if you look at various professional organizations and accrediting agencies, you'll find that one of the key factors is that there's a curriculum that is well aligned to the K-12 standards. In the state of Texas, our curriculum, we have guidelines from the state. They're called the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines that are the learning standards. They are not required, but they do feed into the K-12 standards. LISD has been using those learning standards as the basis of our curriculum at least 13 years that I've been here, and I think before that as well, I'm not sure. One of the other components that is a must for a quality pre-K program is to have qualified teachers who are receiving ongoing professional development. All of our teachers in the pre-K classrooms are certified by the state of Texas to teach the early childhood grades. In addition, they have English as a second language certification, and some also have bilingual and or special education certification. And we provide a wide range of professional learning options for them, for the teachers as well as for the paraprofessionals that are employed in the program throughout the year. A high-quality program is also going to have ongoing assessments of students to monitor progress. We use both district-developed and state-developed assessments for that purpose. And then we also have a family engagement component. As you can imagine, family engagement at any level of education is important, but particularly when the children are young and just beginning on their educational journey. The parents are definitely their first teachers, and so we have to be working together. But those are the components that are generally defined as making up a high-quality pre-K program. And I believe we have all of those in LISD. One of the LISD priorities for the last 2 years has been the learning standards. As I mentioned, the state standards called the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines are the basis of the LISD curriculum, just like for the other grades and subjects. We have teams of teachers that gather annually to review, to revise the units of study, and to keep abreast of what's going on as far as those guidelines. And really, they're very much designed to ensure that the students successfully transition into kindergarten. One of the other district priorities, of course, has been cultural proficiency. I don't know where you could go where you'd find a more culturally diverse population than in many of our pre-kindergarten classrooms. They have daily interactions with children of various ethnic backgrounds, language backgrounds. English as a second language is provided as support in all of the classrooms. We do have a dual language program for those who are Spanish speakers, in which they receive about 80% of their instruction in Spanish and 20% in English. As I mentioned, monitoring progress, ongoing assessment is an important part of that. In those pre-kindergarten guidelines, you'll find all of those domains of learning, all of those content areas that you would find in, all the other elementary grades, with the addition of social-emotional development. Personally, I believe that should be in all of the grade level standards, but it's definitely in place in the pre-kindergarten standards. Learning how to focus, how to follow directions, how to regulate their own behavior, just how to learn to be a learner is vitally important at that age, and that is part of the curriculum within the pre-K, expectations, and we keep a good track on that. Of course, everyone wants to know about their academic growth. We've got both district and state-developed assessments that we use. We're going to just take a look at one piece of that. Of course, alphabet knowledge is one that would be recognized for a long time as a good predictor of whether or not children are going to be successful in school. Well, let's take a look at how our students are doing at the end of last year and this year. The goal in pre-kindergarten, in 4-year-old pre-K in the state of Texas, is that they're able to recognize 20 uppercase and 20 lowercase letters by the end of pre-K 4. On the left-hand graph, you'll see those in our English classes. The green bar shows where our 3-year-olds were in December. The red bar is where our 4-year-olds were in this December, and the blue shows where our 4-year-olds were at the end of last year. So you can see we're right on track to reach that goal of 20 by the end of the year, of lowercase and uppercase letters. In the bilingual classes, while the level is slightly below, it's still very close to what the state standard is. And again, it varies from year to year, but basically you'll see that same trend growing from our 3-year-olds to the 4-year-olds till the end of the school year. I want to share something special with you that was developed by our communications department. And do I just need to click? Is that all I need to do? Let's, okay. All right, Robert. Oops. There's a video in there.
A typical day in our classroom is lots of children coming in, routine things going on, hanging up their backpacks and getting ready for the day, lots of learning, alphabet, letters, sounds, counting, so many things that are foundational in education.
Having another routine outside of home, you are so comfortable at home, everyone loves being at home. But then you come to school and you learn, oh my goodness, I can do so much more.
When we did start here, our son was very nonverbal. He could say a couple words. By the end of the year, our son was talking in complete sentences. So you can see that it wasn't just us taking him to therapy for speech twice a week outside of school. It was being at this school, a public school, 5 days a week for 3 or 4 hours with really good teachers that didn't give up on him.
They're being taught by teachers that know what they're doing. They're being taught by teachers that have had education in this and that have ongoing training and research-based strategies that they're using to teach my children things, and they're not sitting in a classroom all day. They're going to the library, they're going to the playground, they're going outside.
Children aren't just going home saying, we played, or we just went to recess, or we're actually saying, okay, remember to let your mom know today we learned about bears, or today we went to the library, or today we went to music and movement and we played with hula hoops.
Learn to say that I'm happy, learn to say that I'm pretty good at pre-K. I learn about to play, or draw, or be nice to people.
So when they've been pre-exposed in pre-K, they come with a little bit of knowledge already that I can already build upon. With most of my students, without that pre-K basis and knowledge, the fundamental skills that are being set in stone ahead of time, they definitely wouldn't be as successful or possibly even be on grade level without that.
And it's such a fun time. They're so innocent and they really just want to love and be loved and learn, and anything you teach them, it's like brand new. You can see their eyes twinkling.
So when that light bulb goes off and you see you're connecting with them and they are learning and they're getting it, and even those kiddos that already know a lot, when you can take them from there and go even further with them, it's just a pat on the back. It's that jewel in the crown for you. That's why we come.
Thank you. Are there any questions this evening?
Are there any questions? Anyway, so I don't know if I have a question for you, but one of the things, or maybe Dr. Rapp, we often hear, and certainly Governor Abbott has made, pre-K a priority, but we often hear that beyond third grade, it's not the impact of pre-K disappears by third grade, and so could one of you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I think a few years ago, a study came out that was done by Vanderbilt University based on the Tennessee, one of those T states, the Tennessee pre-kindergarten program, which was a statewide program for children very much like ours. They did find that by third grade, the gains that were seen initially were not as apparent. There are some things, though, if you read the study that may throw up some red flags for you. One of the things in the study showed that the students who were included in the survey results had to attend school at least 20 days. Only attending 20 days out of the however many days they have, in Tennessee, really doesn't really guarantee a solid pre-K curriculum, but that was their criteria for selecting the students. They had to stay at least 20 days. The average attendance rate of the students in that study was 83%. In LISD, our pre-K attendance rate is about 94%. So there's a significant difference. I think you have to look at the quantity of time that was there. One of the other factors that you need to look at are the learning standards. Tennessee is a Common Core state, and so they have very different standards than what we do. There are no Common Core standards for pre-kindergarten. There are some learning standards that were developed by the state of Tennessee at the time they launched this pre-kindergarten program, but if you take a look at those side by side with ours, you'll see that they don't have nearly the rigor that our pre-kindergarten standards have. Just using the example of the alphabet knowledge that I shared, the wording in the Texas pre-kindergarten guidelines are that the children would be able to identify 20 uppercase, 20 lowercase letters, and to produce and recognize the sounds of at least 20 letters. In the Tennessee guidelines, and again, I don't have it exactly in front of me, but the guideline is something about to recognize the more common uppercase letters and a few lowercase letters. So that's a significant difference in the rigor at pre-kindergarten. And then, of course, as you would move up through those grades, you obviously have to continue building on what that foundation is. And if the students in kindergarten through third grade are not, holding on and continuing to move, it kind of, makes you wonder, about that. There's a more recent study that hasn't been published yet, but was conducted in one of our neighboring districts, HEB ISD, and they've tracked their pre-kindergarten students through the sixth grade, and they've found that at every data point, the children who were in pre-K, who were economically disadvantaged or English learners, have exceeded those in those same student groups who did not have access to pre-K in kindergarten. So yes, unfortunately, there's been bad publicity out of the Tennessee study, but there are a lot others that show differently.
Thank you. And Dr. Rapp had sent that to the board. I just thought it was a good point of public education because
I would agree.
Those standards would be in place in any public school in Texas that offers pre-K would have those high quality programs. Would that be correct, or is that not correct?
Not exactly. Because pre-kindergarten is a voluntary program, the use of the guidelines that provided by the state are not required unless your district is participating in the high-quality pre-kindergarten grant program, which LISD is. But LISD has been using those guidelines even when they were voluntary for no reason at all.
Right.
They're just well-based in research and are aligned with what we do in the upper grades.
Okay, thank you. Is that information that we have sent to our legislators? Because I know we did have one ask and kind of question that.
Yes, I did ask Ms. Rapp to send that to Representative Fallon.
It'd probably be good for all of them to have, though, too. Yeah. I mean, just as because I think that's what we hear is that why would you want to invest this money when the research shows that past third grade there's not really any measurable impact that makes it worth it.
Right. So. Well, and again, as far as I'm aware, only that Tennessee study was the only large-scale study. But again, it got a lot of publicity at the time, probably because of political reasons.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Brockman, our Academies update.
Thank you. All right. While I'm waiting for the presentation to come up, I would like to recognize a few people that have been instrumental, thank you, in getting us to where we are now in our Academy's journey. We're going to focus our discussion tonight and our updates tonight on two academies, the Collegiate Academy and the Elementary STEM Academy. And for collegiate, I would like to recognize Jill Adams, Wendy Groover, Tim Baxter, and Leanne Lewis for really being the working group. And then for the elementary STEM, that working group really has been Miss Adrienne Gall, Jonas Green, Lindsay Ferguson, Michelle Jacobson, and Brandy Haricki. So I wanted to make sure they were recognized for the incredible amount of work that they've put in over the last few months. So our vision for academies, just as a reminder, is to expand student choice in LISD. We already have quite a menu of options for students to choose from and for families to choose from when making the best educational decisions for their children. We're wanting to expand that through a comprehensive system of academies. And as we've discussed before, we may, over time, have some academies that are a singleton. We have one, and others that we see replicated in more than one campus across the district. As a reminder, we had a board workshop at the end of November and really looked at an introduction to both the Collegiate Academy and the Elementary STEM Academy. At that time, we talked about Collegiate Academy being targeted to open at the Colony High School this coming fall, and for our Elementary STEM Academy to open in the next fall, the fall of 2018. We also talked about the rebranding, if you will, of some current LISD choices, some incredible programs we have in the district that are academies, just by another name. Our career centers, the accelerated program, our dual language programs at multiple campuses, as well as our virtual learning academy. I would like to turn our attention to the Collegiate Academy at the Colony High School. If you will remember, we selected the Colony High School as the location for the Collegiate Academy based on capacity. They had the room over time to accept some additional students into the program. Just as a couple of reminders about a Collegiate Academy, this is where students are earning required high school credits while potentially earning up to an associate's degree by the time that they graduate. We are using a school within a school structure, so those classes are taken at the Colony High School campus. It creates a nice, smooth pathway from high school to college. We also have seen with the agreements that we're putting together that it's going to be a substantial college savings in tuition for families. Some research background on dual credit. There are long-term studies, and this particular one out of Columbia, that show that students who took at least 20 hours of dual credit during high school were more likely to graduate from high school, enroll in college, start college at a 4-year institution, enroll in college full-time, and stay in college at least 2 years to make some significant progress. When we're looking for the ideal collegiate academy candidate, student candidate, we're looking for someone that has a commitment to a rigorous course of study. We're asking them to commit to 36 to 60 hours of college credit by the time they graduate. The 60 hours is the mark for the associate's degree. There needs to be some academic maturity and desire to be challenged within the context of our applicants are 8th graders. Initiative and drive, a record of strong attendance, and academic capability. So what does this actually look like? It's important to note that each student, when accepted, will sit down with a counselor and develop a 4-year plan that is tailored to them and what they're interested in. Want to participate in fine arts all 4 years? Great, let's build that in. Want to be in athletics all 4 years? Great, let's build that in. Want to take classes through CCE or Dale Jackson? Great, let's build that in and then make sure that our college level classes can fit around it. We're looking at students who are going to graduate on the foundation high school program with endorsements and the distinguished level of achievement. They can earn multiple endorsements through this plan and receive performance acknowledgments when they graduate according to dual credit completion. One of the main questions we receive from parents is this realistic to think that my high school student can do this? And absolutely. In 9th grade, we start them off with 2 classes. In 10th grade, 11th and 12th, it just increases from there. What you see is the range in courses and credit hours is based on, are they wanting to be in fine arts all 4 years or career center classes, etc. So this is really an investment. We see this as an investment over time for families. We are estimating the total cost of tuition to families if their student is accessing 60 hours is about $5,000 based on our current tuition rates for calling college. That's not required when they're a freshman year. They pay for the classes as they go. And you can see the comparisons there for 60 hours. Looking at tuition and fees for several of our universities. This truly is an investment, an early investment that will pay off well. Our students who are served by free and reduced lunch program, they will not face tuition fees. They have tuition granted to them through Calling College. And our commitment as a district is we are providing textbooks for the 4 years for this inaugural cohort of students in the Collegiate Academy. So what's our timeline? Last Thursday, March 2nd, we had our information meeting and our student application opened. We had a parent information meeting that was packed. You've all been in the Colony High School auditorium. It was packed with standing room only. Mr. Baxter was estimating about 800 to 850 people were there in the room, staying for that part of the presentation. Student applications are due by March 31st. May 1st is our target for notifying students and families of their acceptance into the program. And then May 10th is a parent meeting for students accepted. So this May 10th will be half celebratory reception. Congratulations, you got in, with more detailed information that they need in moving forward. How do they schedule those appointments to come up with their 4-year plan, etc. So we are well on our way with Collegiate Academy. I'd like to turn our attention now to the Elementary STEM Academy. A reminder on why STEM. Besides the fact that it's a lot of fun, and our students enjoy these types of activities, and they do in other districts as well. We know from the U.S. Department of Ed that STEM jobs are just going to continue to increase, and several of them are facing major shortages, including right here in our Metroplex area. We also know that studies have shown that elementary, although it seems young, is the time frame when kids are really making up their minds that, hey, I might want to pursue something in the STEM area. So it is a perfect time to have a STEM academy with that focus. A reminder, you saw this slide at the workshop back in November, but STEM, of course, is science, technology, engineering, and math, and then we've added the plus, bringing in art, social studies, and language arts when it fits well with the engineering project and what needs to be accomplished. 5-year plan. We've kind of mapped this out over the next 5 years. This spring, our focus has been on developing the proposal process. It's not like the Collegiate Academy at the Colony. We have a number of elementary schools that have some capacity, so those principals were invited to a meeting where they learned more about the program and what the requirements of the proposal were. We're now in the stage of waiting for those proposals to come in and hiring a STEM coordinator that will then work with the first couple of campuses to get the program off the ground. Next year, during 17-18, will be a real focus on curriculum and resource development for the campus, chosen to be the pilot or School 1 as well as School 2, and also looking at the processes for recruitment, family information, transfers, enrollment, and then making sure our teachers at that School 1 are all set and ready to go. 18-19, we're rolling out in K through 3 at that school number 1. School number 2 will continue their training and development. This will be that big year of emphasis for them. In 19-20, then our school 1 just rolls up to include 4th graders. Our school number 2 will roll out K3, and we will also start looking at a selection process for our middle school STEM. We need to have that in place so that when kids reach that 5th grade mark, they've got a program to move into. 2021, our first campus will be K5 STEM. Our second campus will have rolled up a grade to be K4, and our middle school campus will be in serious training and development at that point. Our proposal timeline, as I mentioned, we had a principal meeting on February 22nd. We focused on our elementaries that had physical capacity, space to add additional students. By this week, campuses had the opportunity to submit questions. After looking through all the materials and the proposal, what unanswered questions do they have? And we are going to provide back to principals those frequently asked question responses by this Friday. We've asked them to submit a notice of intent to apply if they are seriously looking at a proposal, so we know how many we're looking at. That is by March 22nd, right after the spring break time. Those campus proposals are due in early May, then review, and then pilot campus announced. We also intend to name school number 2 at that time if we receive the applications or proposals that we need to. So what's in a proposal? What are those components? I'm not going to read through all of these, but the campus has to be able to evidence best practices currently in place with math instruction, with science instruction. What are they already doing in the STEM area, maybe through clubs or enrichment time? Where is their staff in understanding STEM concepts? What about stakeholder involvement? We're asking for a multifaceted committee on the campus that includes a parent component and teachers, and making sure we have widespread buy-in, if you will. What are their plans for family recruitment? That is certainly not a journey they will travel alone, but what ideas are they bringing to the table? What partnerships would they be willing to reach out and seek, either with secondary campuses, our career centers, but also our community STEM leaders, whether it be through Tech Titans or another community partnership group? And I would be happy to take any questions that you have at this time. That's a lot of information.
All right. Are there any questions? Ms. Cox?
Well, I'm very excited about the academies. I think this is going to be great for our district and looking forward to it. My question is, will any student be able to go, mine's feedbacking too, go to either the Colony campus or to the STEM campus that is at another school?
The Collegiate Academy this year at the Colony is just open for students that were zoned for the Colony. The expectation is then that the next year we would open it for students to transfer, and then they could transfer and become part of the Colony High School. But decided in its inaugural year we were going to limit it to students already planned for that campus. For the STEM Academy, one of the purposes in inviting principals of campuses that had some physical capacity to add students was the goal to allow students to transfer to that campus for that program. Obviously, if you can't grow bigger than the campus itself, but if you have room to add 100 kids, then let's get 100 more kids on that campus to enjoy that program.
I have a second part. Sorry, one more question then. So from a middle school standpoint then, since it's not offered there, would they go back to their home middle school campus, or would they proceed on with that middle school campus of the elementary STEM school? Do we know those answers yet, or maybe I'm premature in that?
We do not have those answers yet. One, the vision is that there would be a middle school STEM program that they could choose to go to when they left the elementary if they wanted to. They could always go back to their home campus if they wanted to. And within the current transfer guidelines and capacity at buildings, they still have the option to transfer yet to another middle school of choice.
Questions? Ms. Finish?
Just a question on the STEM academies. It'll be all in K through 5 when it rolls out, correct? It just won't be something that we go grade by grade through?
When we open campus number 1 in 1819, it will open K3. There'll still be 4th and 5th graders on the campus, but they won't be in the official STEM program. The next year it would roll up a grade, so those 3rd graders would just continue on. That STEM program would then be K4 and then K5. But again, we'll still have 4th and 5th graders at the campus.
Thank you.
And Ms. Timish, the 4th and 5th graders, even in year 1, will benefit from STEM activities, but we need to gradually get there because we've got to provide some place in middle school for them. So that's why officially it's K3 that we'll start it at.
Any other questions? Ms. Prosnick?
For the Collegiate Academy at the Colony, which I am so excited about, it says that they won't be taking their college classes until the spring semester or our second semester. So, but it says they'll be doing preparatory in the fall. Can you tell me what that is?
One of the things that we really want to do at the Collegiate Academy is build that cohort model. Not that they're just attending classes and they're taking some dual credit classes, but that this is an identity and a cohort group. So we're looking at what kind of AVID strategies can we introduce them to. Many of them we anticipate would be in AVID classes, field trips to universities, block lunch, looking at having Collegiate Academy club time, if you will. So really building some study skills, some continuing that interest, building that cohort identity, probably even some preparation for assessment that they need to do, those kinds of pieces.
So that will be a class then?
I can't promise it will be a class for every kid because it will depend somewhat on that 4-year plan that they lay out. but we're going to have them connected, every kid.
Yes, Ms. Hassett.
I have a couple of questions. For the collegiate academies, will you allow sophomores to transfer in the following years if they have not chosen to come in the freshman year? And will you also allow kids to drop if they've decided this is just not something that they're going to excel in?
Let me answer the second question first. Absolutely. And in fact, when we're looking at the number of students we really need to have to get started in year one, it's based on the fact we know we will have some attrition. Our goal is that they have to continue to be on track to earn 36 hours at least to remain in the academy. So it can be a two-sided conversation. There can be parents and families saying, this is not working for my child. But it also can be the campus saying, you're not being successful. It's not working the way it's intended. Let's find a better fit for you. Your other question was about sophomores coming in. We have talked about that a little bit. I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibility. We do want to capture them as incoming freshmen because the first two classes are pretty foundational. The educational psychology and the speech class that are right now pinned for that freshman year are really pivotal in making sure that they're going to be successful and setting them up for that success. So I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibility.
How can you have 9 classes in the senior year? You had on the graph that they could be possibly taking 9 hours, 9 courses.
Well, with dual credit, think back to a traditional college experience. In a semester, you had Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, and you had Tuesday, Thursday classes. Well, our accelerated block schedule allows them in one class period, first period, to have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Tuesday, Thursday, all in that one period. So that's how.
And I had a question about the other, can't remember, and I'll...
Mr. Miller.
First, I think this is awesome in helping move the magic middle, Ms. Prosnick, as we say, and close the achievement gap. So this is great. So I'd like to start with GPA accelerators. Just kidding. The counselors probably are going, what? Not again. There's a joke behind that, everybody. So there is. As it relates to Collegiate Academy, a couple questions. And Mr. Baxter, thank you for your campus doing this. I think it's a great place for it. I think it's a great place to kind of model the success, and this will be very successful. And of course, love the campus leadership there and the support you're getting. So, and I love the teams that have come together. I mean, it's a very diverse team of people that have kind of provided inputs into these two campuses. So, as it relates to teacher certification of the Collegiate Academy, like JUCO credits for classes, will that be done? What's the process of doing that? Are they going to be our teachers? Will we kind of rent then from the JUCOs, or contract with them? I guess I didn't mean rent, but in the consulting business. You know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with that, Dr.
Yes. Bergman? The answer is yes. We expect there will be some of each. So you look at the classes over time, and some of them will be calling college staff coming to the campus, and they're happy to do that. They're thrilled to do that. But we also are looking at how do we maximize hiring opportunities to hire LISD staff that could also teach dual credit, and that's happening everywhere. How do we maximize every time you need to hire a new English teacher, and I know I want to be offering dual credit English, how do I make sure I'm making that right decision? And some of that is a collaboration with the college and who they would accept.
Yeah. Okay. So I just food for thought. Mr. Bonner, soon to be Dr. Bonner. Everybody's a doctor, so we got to get that in place. But we don't want to, and Dr. Rapp, dilute the AP program, right, and the College Board offerings that exist. And I know that it's not as simple as you take the class, you get the accelerator, but you've got to take the test to get the college credit. And we learned that there's a fair percentage that don't take the test, which befuddles me if you're going to go through that process. But just making sure that it doesn't dilute the value of AP teachers when we're doing dual credit that have a different level of certification. AP teachers really do have a higher level of, may not be certification, but at least content awareness, the ability to measure learning in an AP class, to, conform to College Board requirements in some cases, or that type of thing. So just making sure that it's not a competition between the two. It's actually an opportunity to look at what's the best fit for the student, and reinforcing that to our AP teachers, their value, just like this group, because we're probably going to be getting a different group of kids looking at college readiness than we already have on our campuses doing AP.
Absolutely. And we know that you may be talking about different students, and several of the parent questions that we fielded last Thursday night were really around, okay, my kid's already in an AP class, or we're already headed for AP. Is this a better choice? And it comes down to providing some good education for parents, and you know your child a lot better than we do, and what's the best avenue for you? And we've done some discussion over the last couple of days. We think some kids it's going to be a hybrid. They're going to take some AP and they're going to take some dual credit, and it's going to be a win-win for them because they're going to come out with great college credit.
When they go to, I know it's for Colony students this year, but when they go and become part of the Colony campus, and we talked about a campus on a campus, will this count into their total students for UIL numbers?
Yes, they would become students of the Colony High School.
Okay.
I'll be honest, that was one of the reasons we wanted to maintain for this first year. There were several, but one of the reasons for student zone for the Colony the first year,
yeah,
to maintain that number.
This pretty much puts them into 6A for sure. I mean, when we do this, it's likely that's the case, right?
That's probable, but of course we don't know where the UIL is going to set that limit. We realign every 2 years, so. But we certainly we're looking at the big picture, not just focusing on UIL, but certainly it is something we'll pay attention to.
Yeah, okay. So just a couple more questions. So the school size, we got that, Magic Middle, teacher certification. So on the STEM side, I like Dr. Brockman, he had the other, and the arts. Sir Ken Robinson talks about it as STEAM. Love the way he refers to it. I mean, the Seeleys are kind of a STEAM family. You got the brains on this side and the arts left, right, after she had the... It's I'm a STEAM family. My wife is an arts major, and I'm a computer science guy. So, but for a lot of folks, if you don't know this, I mean, the U.S. is struggling with getting women graduates, female graduates in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And Sandra, I know you know this. AT&T has about $350 million that they invest in. They're my client and her employer, and it's something that they're so keen on it. You can get them in the international market, right? Females that are getting the engineering degrees, but not as many here. And I think the more we can do to show that it really is an attractive career, it's not that geeky anymore. It's fun, and this is the place to do that. But one of the things that I think we need to continue to remember to tell the story, Dr. Rogers, we talked the other day about continuing to tell our story, is our combination of STEM and the arts and LISD, because of our fine arts, Mr. West, and the bands, and the ability. I was just talking to a kid the other day. He's at A&M. He went in, a tuba player, band guy. He's coming out of A&M, math science major, right? I mean, who would have thought that he was able to transition that well? And hopefully, Ms. Pelfrey, we'll get the gentleman that graduated from LHS that's at AT&T, an officer, to come up here and show the importance of this. that we're working on. And so this STEM has really got a huge impact, I think, on to be a leader and to really have an impact on our local businesses, meaning in the North Texas area. So I appreciate all the work on this. I know it's been a couple years in the process, but it's one of our goals for next year. It's exciting. We're going to move that magic middle, Jenny, and close the achievement gap. And thanks for all your hard work on this.
Ms. Hassett.
I remembered my STEM for the STEM Academy capacity. Is the proposal going to include K-5 capacity instead of just the introductory K-3 capacity?
When we looked at campuses that had capacity, it's physical capacity across the board. So we looked at campuses that had a certain amount of capacity. It wasn't that they could add one more classroom. It was more than that. They've got to be able to welcome additional families K-5.
Questions? Ms. House?
I have one other question. Just in thinking about our families and how transient they are, if we're not at capacity, is there going to be a policy for a transfer in that may have that opportunity to apply for one of these academies after that end date? If there's capacity there, maybe they already participate, but due to parents relocating, maybe this is something they want to continue. Has that been addressed at all?
Great question. First off, we want the spots filled. I mean, there's no doubt. And so if you looked at the second year of the plan, the 5-year plan, all the logistics are things that we've got to work through, but certainly we're going to create opportunities for our kids, even those that are transient, to continue the program.
I guess I had one other question for my notes. Maybe we talked about this. Is there a cap, or how many kids are we expecting to accept into the Collegiate Academy? First year, we're going to limit it to TCH 100?
We have a minimum of 60 to 75 to make in the first year. I think it's reasonable to think a cap for the first year would be 100.
Okay.
But, in this first year of accepting students, we have not set on their application they have to score this, because we really want to see what comes forward on those applications and look for those natural breaks. So,
I love that, by the way. We're not going to make a score be the thing that. Thank you that the graduate profile is starting to come through. I love it. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a few questions. So where does the TSI fall into this?
Bill, come up to the microphone, please. They don't have to take it as 8th graders, so put your mind at ease there.
Okay.
So depending on what courses they end up taking sophomore year, we're looking at spring of freshman year for TSI, and one of the cohort models would be the TSI prep. The first part of the TSI they would take would be the reading. They actually don't have a math class slated until junior year. So we would have them do the reading at the end of freshman year, and then if we needed to do some remediation over the summer or at the beginning of the year before they took it again, we would have the timeline for that. And then same with math would be at the end of sophomore year.
And I can't remember if we discussed this back at our workshop or not. I mean, is that a cost that the district is going to assume, or is that going to be required of families?
So right now we're actually at TSI testing. All of our campuses are actually doing TSI testing right now for our dual credit program. So we actually are having the students pay for it. I believe there's a caveat for free and reduced lunch, but I believe it's $10 a test. Okay. So it's a very minimal cost.
All right, thank you. And then what is involved? I know we have a student selection process at the Colony High School. Who's involved in that? What does that look like?
So once the applications are received and the teacher recommendations go out and are received, we have a scoring matrix, if you will, that is not solely based on did we get straight A's, that kind of thing. They're 8th graders. So It allows for that. So we're going to have a team sitting around the table. It's going to include Mr. Baxter, Ms. Groover, Ms. Adams, Ms. Leanne Lewis, Dr. Coburn, and myself to look at the scoring as well as where is that break and picking who we think are going to be the most successful in this inaugural year.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then I think I know the answer to this. So when we talk about rolling the elementary STEM up to middle school, I'm assuming that that exists then as a school within a school as opposed to an entire middle school campus being an academy.
That is correct. At the elementary, we're looking at it's the entire school, but in middle school, the most likely scenario is a school within a school.
And would students be able to then join that as if I'm coming from a non-STEM elementary school and feeding into that middle school, could I join the program then?
The models that we've been looking at and studying do not require that they participated at elementary.
Okay.
A student, though, that was coming from an elementary STEM would certainly probably get priority, but if there's space, certainly we want kids in the program.
But the initial STEM opening is going to be different in that it'll be an open enrollment really across. So like when we have our first elementary STEM program, that would be open to all students in the district, correct? That's not just going to be a first year of this school only?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Are there any other questions? Okay. We thank y'all. We're looking forward to it. So excited. All right. Next is our legislative update. Ms. Cox.
Okay, well, I made some notes because I have some to say, but I just want to first of all thank the district. We are very blessed to have a great board and the district that stays in the forefront of the legislative sessions because public education, of course, is under attack as usual, but even more so, I think, this session. So we all were able to go up there on February 21st, along with Dr. Rogers. So Mrs. Sells and Ms. Timish, they attended, this was with TASB, so the morning seminar, and they heard from Senator Larry Taylor and Senator Royce West, both on the Senate Education Committee, as well as Representative Dan Huberty, who chairs the House Education Committee. A to F ratings and vouchers were the most talked about topics. Shocking. Ms. Sheffield, Mr. Miller, Ms. Hassett, Ms. Prosnick, Dr. Rogers, and myself visited with Representative Ron Simmons and Representative Tam Parker. In the afternoon, we were able to attend a House Education hearing where Commissioner of Education Mike Morath gave an update. Ms. Hassett has requested to receive a copy of the Commissioner's PowerPoint presentation, so perfect. The entire board and Dr. Rogers visited with a staff member from Representative Giovanni Caprioni, I never can say his name right, who represents District 98. We met with a staff member there. We also met with Representative Pat Fallon, having a good discussion on how we are comparing and measuring students based on tests that does not adequately measure progress for students or teachers. We were able to visit with Senator Jane Nelson, who said she is committed to not cutting any money from public school funding. So there she said it. The board addressed concerns with a voucher program and A to F ratings for schools and school funding. They all shared our concerns. Representative Simmons has submitted House Bill 68 regarding public education grant for certain students receiving special education services. I want to encourage you guys to continue to send letters and emails, phone calls, to continue to stress these things ongoing as the legislative session continues. So this week I was looking on the news and it says Trump is committed to create a $20 billion voucher program which would divert money from Title I and other programs for disadvantaged students. There's also talk of reducing the federal budget for public education by 12%. There's a lot going on, federal and state, and we'll continue to keep you updated. So I'm going to have Catherine talk about the PTA. The PTA also went up on a visit. And then Kronda is going to talk about Denton County Days, who also visited. So thank you, and keep sending information to your legislators.
Well, we've been burning the roads up to Austin, which I love. You know, that's one thing that 1 year previously when we were there, they said, we see you, but we don't see you enough. And I think we've changed their mind on that. So on Monday, February 27th, myself, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Hassett turned around and went with a contingent of 31 people from local PTAs that was organized through the LISD Council of PTAs, and that included 5 student legislative representatives from Marcus High School and 1 elementary student from Garden Ridge Elementary, parents, principals, and assistant principals. Simultaneously, they held a student caucus and priority caucuses that were held with standing room only. Each caucus had a variety of speakers presenting on topics related to the Texas PTA legislative priorities, as well as an opportunity to interact with the presenters in a time of Q&A, which I will tell you our district was represented in that Q&A. And so we appreciate the questions of Ms. Hassett and Mr. Miller during that time. Texas PTA promotes this rally day during legislative session as an assembly of unity for representing the almost 500,000 Texas state PTA members. The priorities that the Texas State PTA makes as a state association covers a number of issues facing our children in the public education system. These include issues on supporting student success, health and safety, meaningful assessment and accountabilities, and the strengthening of public schools. The group joined more than 1,600 from across the state to rally on the state capitol steps, and then, as the back of the council shirt stated, we stormed the castle. The group representing LISD was able to meet with the following: Representative Giovanni Capriglione, Representative Tan Parker, and an aide to Senator Jane Nelson, Representative Pat Fallon, and Representative Ron Simmons. I will tell you that our students were very great representatives of LISD. They asked our legislators some questions regarding A through F and vouchers and let their voice be known. And I also want to commend our legislators in their response to our students. It was done with the highest respect and honor for their presence there, and I just want to make that as a matter of record. It was a long day for many, but priceless in the support of not only our LISD students, but those across the state. That was my report.
Well, immediately following on Tuesday and Wednesday, I also got to go down to Austin, went down as a business owner, but I wear 2 hats, so it was really fun to be able to represent LASD. This was in conjunction with Flower Mound Chamber, Lewisville Chamber, and Denton Chamber. And when we were there, I was able to proudly represent LASD because we are the largest employer in Denton County. And I think that's important for our elected officials to remember that. On the Senate floor, our commissioners, Hugh Coleman, Commissioner Ron Marchant, Commissioner Bobby Mitchell, and Commissioner Andy Eads were recognized, as well as Judge Horn were recognized on the floor. They also recognized us at the House with Lynn Stuckey getting to announce the Denton County days. For that, Senator Nelson said that we are one of the largest contingencies that goes down, so I appreciate LISD being part of that, as well as Frisco ISD and Denton ISD were also there. There was a lot of opportunities for me to meet with Senator Nelson's aides. She did get to speak with us, but I know she's very busy. I'm on the Finance Committee and got to speak with Pat Fallon, Ron Simmons, and Tan Parker, as well as multiple other elected officials. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be there, and I think that's something I'd really like to encourage our board to continue is going down for Denton County Days, because not only are we able to represent at PTA, but we are the largest employer, and there's a lot of things that we can bring to the table in representing LISD for Denton County Days. Thanks.
Thanks. Are there any comments from the board? Yes, Ms. Hassett.
I was very excited about the PTA rally too. We actually had one more student. We had 7 kids. We had one from Flower Mound High School as well. We had, in that 31, we had 2 principals and an assistant principal, and of that 4 males, which was huge. So 31 was just huge. We were very, very excited. I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the show is starting to go. We have 7 bills going to be heard in House Pub Ed tomorrow on finance. One of them that was just released from Dan Huberty, Representative Chairman Huberty, House Bill 21. And it's a new finance bill. I started to read it, didn't have time to read it. Excited about the idea of it because the runs that were provided gives us a little extra money, so I'm really excited about that idea. So we'll see how far that goes, but hopefully this particular finance bill will get some traction because it's going to provide more funding than the Senate bill, its corollary Senate bill. Just really wanting everybody to make sure that they start paying attention to the things that go in Austin because it's going to start rocking and rolling.
Ms. Sheffield, I just wanted to say, first off, I greatly appreciate the actions of the board. It's not just been a one-time thing. This has been an effort that this group has done for the years that I've been in this role. And our legislators know where we stand. What we need to ask is for people in the audience and teachers and parents across our district and across our state to be more active and to let them know where they stand about public ed. But I greatly appreciate the board's actions.
Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you all. All right. Next, we'll move into our discussion items. Mr. Ball.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item there is the monthly financial report that you have before you. It does represent the revenues and expenditures as of the end of January 2017. We do believe these financial statements represent where the district is at that point in time. We think also they represent that we are on track to follow the budget that's been adopted by the board. It's noteworthy, I think, to note that the tax levy is a little bit different this year from last year because of the reduction that the board was able to provide for our taxpayers. That shifts some money from between the state and local categories, and so even though there are some pretty significant variances there, we still believe we're on track to follow the budget. So be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions? All right. So there were no questions on that. So you want to go on to the next item, Mr. Ball?
Absolutely. The next item is an opportunity for a bond refunding, and following our process of having an information item, a discussion item, and then an action item. We've mentioned this a little bit last month, and then this month is the opportunity for us to actually begin the process that would culminate with an action item at the next meeting, and at the March regular meeting, and it would involve some things like actually getting the credit rating and developing some of the official statements and those kinds of things. And so we have at the microphone Mr. John Martin with Hilltop Securities. As you know, Mr. Martin is the district's financial advisor, and certainly he's been in the middle of preparing the estimates that you've seen, and we do believe that the opportunity exists to save about $1 million a year over the remaining life of some 2007 bonds that will be callable this year. And so with that said, Mr. Martin and myself would be happy to try to address any questions the board might have. And if, Mr. Martin, if I've left anything out, let us know.
Are there any questions? Pass it.
I have one question you probably can't answer, but if you brought your crystal ball. I've been wondering about the Permanent School Fund and the SBOE's allowing them to have more money out of a Permanent School Fund for bonds and things for themselves. Is there any? Yeah. Is there? Push the button, yeah. Is there any possibility that will impact other school districts' ratings within the Permanent School Fund? Has anybody made any speculations on how that part will impact?
We haven't heard anything yet from the rating agencies as to what if there's drawdown or allocation that has to be made within the fund if they bring in things other than ISDs. So it does tend to cause pause, though, for sure.
Curious. Thanks.
Miller?
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Martin, and then another comment. So charters can borrow against that today, leveraging the ratings, right? As of 2015, I believe they could borrow against, or using that as collateral.
Well, they have a similar to ISDs. They have the ability to apply for the permanent school fund guarantee. So it's not borrowing against it necessarily, but it's giving them a credit enhancement.
Right. Yeah,
So
credit enhancement. Yeah.
yeah. So whereas
so I think it's a
charter
good
school
question.
would probably not. There would not be any charter schools that would have as high a rating, for example, in my opinion, as LISD.
Right.
So it would the credit level would be different.
Right, yeah. So I think it does beg the question, what does the drawdown have to be if there's an allocation, hypothetically, which, could be a different discussion, but because they did start to erode that before. But I think this, again, as I mentioned last time, first of all, Mr. Martin is a member of our community, raises kids here. He's part of this, discussion with us on how he can save money as a taxpayer. So when we lowered the tax rate last year on our INS service, the debt service, that was because we can't just take money in and pay it down like a mortgage. And we've talked about this, but to reiterate it as we go through these discussions, sitting on that cash doesn't make any sense for the taxpayers to give us the cash and let us sit on it. So you continuing to come to us when there's an opportunity to refinance is what's gotten us to where in the last year we could save $68 million on a go-forward basis, and now we're looking at more. So thank you, and bring some more in the next couple months. It'd be great. But I think this is where it's an opportunity for those separately to go and, Google's your friend, understand school finance. This fund is important. It's a part of the constitutional setup to fund public education in the state of Texas. And so in a two-legged stool of property values and consumption tax or sales tax, this is all we have as sources of funding are investing in our growth. So thank you for bringing these forward, and I'm sure we'll have quite a few more discussions over the next few months on this and many other topics.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. As Mr. Ball said, we'll be back to you on your next board meeting. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that when we have a little bit of an increase as the Fed is anticipating, that it won't impact us too badly, that maybe it's already built into the market.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all right. Thank you so much. All right, so our next item, Mr. Ball, it's you again.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry for you to have to listen to me over and over, but this item has to do with the again the second look at some of these items. But this will be a meal price increase for the 2017-18 school year, and this is based on the price equity tool that the USDA has, and you see in the calculations there that the recommendation is for a 5-cent increase in the price of the full price lunches, and so again, this is a required calculation that we have to make, and we're only proposing the minimum required increase that the calculations yield in that tool that's provided by the USDA. And there really are two items here related to child nutrition. This is the first one. Wanted to talk about this one first because the next one that's coming up is the consideration as a discussion item of the renewal of the contract with Aramark. And the reason this one's coming first is because this 5-cent proposed price increase is built into the revenue estimates for that item, which is coming. And so we are estimating that this price increase, if approved, would bring in about $98,000 in additional revenue over the course of the 2017-18 school year. And you also have in your packet a schedule that lists the comparison of the Lewisville ISD prices for meals with many of our neighboring districts in the Metroplex, and then you also see a comparison of the proposed 17-18 pricing and kind of a legend at the bottom that tells you some have not yet started this process, but in any event, we believe that the prices that would result from the board adopting this price increase would still leave our meal prices in a competitive posture with other districts in the area. And I think with that, certainly be happy to answer any questions that the board might have. And we also have Alicia Jordan here, who is with Aramark. She'll be actually giving you a presentation on the next item, but she's certainly available to answer any questions on this item as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. I don't guess there's any on that. I mean, that's really one of those, it's required, period. It's not something that we're doing on our own. It's something that's required. So, okay. All right. Well, there's no other questions on that, so we can move to the next item.
Okay. The next item is, again, this is a discussion item, and we would anticipate bringing this back in April as an action item, and it's to renew the contract with Aramark, who, as you know, manages our food service program and has for the past 17 years. So Alicia has a PowerPoint that she will give that kind of gives you the update.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I just have a quick update about what we've been doing in child nutrition this year. First off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our statistics. We serve about 8 million meals every school year. About 1.7 of those are in breakfast, 4.2 in lunch, and then the remainder, the balance, are an a la carte after-school snack program, and now our dinner program, which is new this school year. We provide jobs to over 450 child nutrition personnel each year, and we're one of the top 5 departments within Lewisville ISD. This year we also had a federal administrative review where USDA and TDA come in and they audited 8 of our campuses, and we had a perfect review for our child nutrition department. So we're very proud of our staff and everything that they've been able to accomplish with that review. Like I mentioned earlier, we participate in the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, After School Snack Program, and then new this year is our Child and Adult Care Food Program, where we have implemented a dinner program at some of our campuses that have after-school programming, where those students are participating in after-school tutoring or athletics, sometimes even band, and they are able to get a dinner meal before they leave and go home for that night. We also offer fresh fruits and vegetables every day at every meal period. And then these are just some of our name brand ingredients that we feature on our menus. Some of our student engagement programs, the Lone Star Chef Competition, the Colony High School culinary students are participating in this year, and they were just given their chef coats to wear and represent LASD and Aramark at our regional competition that'll come up at Baylor University in Waco. We also do Taste It Tuesdays, where we introduce new fruits and vegetables to students. In March, we have snap peas that we're offering, and then in April, it's a chili lime jicama on our menu. So it's neat to be able to introduce those new items to our students. We also participate in multiple campus health fairs across the school district, where we do recipe demonstrations, tastings, and also educational activities, highlighting what we're doing in child nutrition, but also sending home that educational nutrition message with our parents. And then Come and Eat It is a new event that we're doing for a second time this school year, where we're partnering with local chefs and also our executive chef, Robbie, where we're going to do a recipe demonstration and tasting event with our elementary school students. With Chef Robbie, he really focuses on our culinary techniques and offering training with our staff, in not only garnishing, but also knife safety and cutting techniques. And then we also do occupational safety to make sure that our staff are safe in their equipment operation and injury prevention, as well as marketing and merchandising. We want to make sure our food is presented and is appealing to the eye, because most of us eat with our eyes. Just for a finance overview and a highlight of the budget that you have for 17-18 next school year, we have a projected revenue of about $24 million. with the projected expenses of 22, almost 23 million, and our guarantee for next year is about 1.4. And again, as Mr. Ball highlighted, we are projecting or recommending a price increase of 5 cents at our paid lunch prices only for next school year. So that shows a highlight of where we'll be. I just also want to take the opportunity to thank y'all for partnering with us and really giving us the opportunity to highlight some of our successes this school year. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions? Ms. Cox?
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you because food is very important to me personally, but also for our children because we want them to eat and be healthy and get a good meal, and sometimes it's the main meal that they're getting for the day. So I want to thank you for really trying to make a colorful plate for the kids because that's real important that they're getting all their nutrients as possible. But my question for you is the health fairs that you were talking about in here, is that for students or is that for parents as well? And if so, how do they get invited or how are they coming to the events?
It is for both. It's on a campus-by-campus basis. So as campuses decide that they're going to do a health fair or even a parent-teacher night, they let us know, and we will come out and do different activities and games with the students and the parents to highlight some of the nutrition information that we have available to them, and also some of our menu offerings that we offer every day.
So the campuses are contacting you to come out? Okay, all you teachers in there, please contact her to get out to your schools.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Prosnick?
Well, something you didn't mention is that you got your perfect rating while moving your office. And I think you were commended for doing that. I happened to be over there while you all were moving for a meeting, and really great job on that. My question for you is when you are looking at our school lunches and you are having to conform to some federal guidelines, can you elaborate on the restraints that puts on you in delivering?
Absolutely. And one of the most difficult here recently is sodium. So the sodium restrictions are very, very strict in that, for example, if I serve a seasoned green bean on my menu line, I'm not allowed to sell that a la carte. I can only sell an unseasoned green bean, so no butter, no sodium, none of those things that make green beans and our cooked vegetables so delicious. So that is definitely challenging, but one way that we go about I guess accommodating those challenges and making sure our menus are delicious is using spices and different seasonings like that to where we can make the food still taste delicious, but also be acceptable with both the child nutrition regulations, but also with our students. And another great example of that is at Marcus High School. We're piloting a spice station to where our students can take a little bit of creativity and control in that, and we have a spice station outside of the serving line to where they can season their food with lemon pepper seasoning and with just a chipotle pepper seasoning. With none of those have sodium in them as well. So it's just another avenue of giving that power back into our students' hands, but also educating them with Chef Robbie making announcements on the PAs about, well, this seasoning would go great with this particular menu item.
Other questions? So on your Taste It Tuesday, are those items that do you offer samples to students so they can taste them so they don't have to purchase them necessarily?
Exactly. They are samples, and then we also talk about why those ingredients are healthy for you, and then also maybe, like, for example, with the jicama, where it comes from and how you can prepare in different ways to serve it at home as well.
Thanks. Yes.
And I'd just like to say I appreciate Ms. Jordan and Aramark. You know, every year they ask to come in front of our student advisory committee and just take questions from students. What about this? Why can't we do this? And I appreciate that. And then, of course, it was Alicia that I went to her with an issue that we had a lot of middle school kids that were going hungry because they had to stay after school before their sporting event, and Aramark stepped up and figured out a way that we could feed those kids. And so I appreciate their flexibility on that.
Thank you so much. All right, so our next item, Mr. Ball again.
Thank you, Ms. Sheffield. Hopefully this one is the final one for a few minutes. This is an item that's before the board tonight as a discussion item. We anticipate that it would come back next month as an action item. And this is the renewal of the Skyward Student Information System. And this item is the software that the district has been using for a number of years. This package was selected by the state of Texas through a competitive procurement process a few years ago. That contract now is expiring, and this software now is available through purchasing cooperatives. And so we want to make the board aware that this is a really critical system for the district. It touches almost every student, every teacher, every employee in the district in some way. Multiple applications extract data from the Skyward system, to like the child nutrition program, the library programs, the nurses programs, just on and on. Our transportation program. This is the core system that makes all these other systems, or that provides data for the other systems to work. And so we wanted to just kind of give the board that information, and understanding that it would be a huge undertaking to change these systems. And we believe this system is meeting the needs of the district in a very good way, and hope to be back in April with a recommendation to approve this procurement. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Colbeck also, I think, would be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ball. Before I open it up to questions, I don't know if this was an item that the Technology Committee reviewed, and so Mr. Miller, I don't know if you'd like to make some comments based on our committee meeting?
I think Mr. Ball said it well, but I'll always take an opportunity to speak at the mic. So, no. This is one where in the last 3 years we've seen real progress with Skyward and single sign-on, and making it easier for parents who have multiple children to look at their assignments and kind of navigate through the system. And with the great success we're going to have next year with ePortfolio and the connection to that, it'll be it'll just be exciting to see how it all integrates together. So I think we need to do it. As many people know, I've been usually on the opposite side of approving anything with ESC, but this is a cooperative agreement, and so it's essentially giving us buying power, and I think it doesn't have anything Common Core on it or Eduphoria, things that have made people nervous. It really is something that we're just renewing, and in fact, mostly, and there is a bit of a delta in price, upgrading the system pretty dramatically, I think, in looking at the upgrades year over year since I've been on the board. This is a material release, and so I appreciate Brian and the team, doing such a great job in looking at it.
Any questions? Ms. Cox?
Will this cause the system to go down at any time period, or change anything for the parents and their logging in, student access?
That's a great question, Ms. Cox. The answer is no. This is simply a license renewal. It doesn't really affect the operations of the system.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Ball, you're done. All right.
Don't leave.
Yeah, don't leave. So next we'll move on to our instructional materials proclamation. Dr. Rapp.
Yes, as mentioned earlier, we're proud of the brains that are in learning and teaching as Ms. Seeley comes up to the podium along with Annie Rivera and Adrian Moreno to talk about what's in Proclamation 2017. I'm going to go over just a few overview things and ask Ms. Seeley to click for me as I talk really quickly. Basically, between February and April, we begin or start the state-adopted instructional materials review process intensively with our teachers, and Ms. Seeley will talk about the timeline before that as well. We partner with our purchasing department for materials for advanced placement courses, and in this case, American Sign Language and supplemental materials. And then we've met with the Curriculum and Programs Board Committee to talk about processes that we have in place for this proclamation. In the past, when I started in central office 13 years ago, these were called textbook adoptions. And this is now no longer the case. This is an instructional materials adoption because really what comes as part of these is a suite of materials for our teachers and our students. A little bit of background: proclamations are issued by the State Board of Education. This one specifically was issued for CTE and languages other than English. And ultimately, you will hear from the team tonight about how they analyze these materials for their alignment to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And specifically, this proclamation was called for because the TEKS have been revised for CTE and languages other than English. It is important to note that our instructional materials are resources that our teachers use. They are not the curriculum. Our team of teachers work with learning and teaching staff to develop our curriculum locally, as everyone knows, and instructional materials empower our teachers to align their instruction to the TEKS and meet the various needs of students. And then finally, the life of the adoption roughly is about 8 years. Now with instructional materials funds, we have options available to us. We can price materials out anywhere from 1 to 8, but these materials we select will be hopefully about 8 years in length.
All right, just a quick overview of the timeline here. The work around Proclamation 2017 actually began in November as the list of instructional materials adopted by the State Board was finalized and published in late November. We then began organizing teacher teams in the areas and courses under consideration to begin the process of analyzing the materials for their alignment to the TEKS and how they might support our district curriculum. In the area of world language, teacher teams were created with representatives from the district as a whole, with opportunities for feedback from all teachers at the campus level. In the area of CTE, with the sheer volume of courses under consideration, every teacher was invited to participate in the process for any course that they teach. January was a time of gathering information for our teams, our campuses, and our parents. We began to request and receive samples from the publishers in the form of both online and print materials to begin this review process. Publishers were invited to make presentations to our teacher teams to provide additional information and clarity about the materials under consideration. February and March have proven to be a time for analyzing these materials, gathering feedback, and ultimately narrowing down selections. Parents and community were provided an opportunity to view and provide in-person feedback about these materials under consideration in February, and a second opportunity will take place on March 22nd at the Career Center East. Online opportunities for the same type of feedback are currently posted on the district and campus web pages and will remain open for feedback through March. Using this feedback, along with the feedback gathered from their campuses, teams will formalize their recommendations for instructional materials. These recommendations will come to you by course as an action item at the April board meeting. Pending board approval and funding, we hope to begin the process of ordering these materials in May and June to be able to provide really high-quality professional learning to teachers this summer. I'd like to now turn it over to Ms. Annie Rivera in World Language and Mr. Adrian Moreno in CTE to kind of take a deeper dive into their specific content areas.
For languages other than English, the courses under consideration are Spanish, French, German, and Latin. We have various publishers under consideration: Bolchese Carducci, Cambridge, EMC, CLET, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, and Santillana. Teachers met throughout the timeline that Ms. Seeley discussed, and we focused on creating rubrics, which we've been using to evaluate the publisher materials. They focus on text and curriculum alignment, user experience, ancillary resources, and digital functions. State proclamations do not address materials for advanced placement, IB, or locally developed courses. So district personnel in our department have been working with the local purchasing department in order to procure, review, select, and recommend materials specific to AP World Language courses, American Sign Language, and supplemental materials specific to reading and literacy.
Career and technology We had 83 courses that are up for review for this year, and the publishers under consideration were Cengage, CEV Multimedia, Goodhart Wilcox, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Davis Publications, the Lampo Group, Electude USA, BE Publishing, TPS Publishing. And with us, the teachers met and they focused on the evaluation for their rubrics with the new TEKS coming out for the 17-18 school year. So we were looking for TEKS alignment with our new courses, or the new TEKS for those courses, links to industry, multiple forms of assessment was something our teachers were interested in having out of this instructional material review, and connections to real-life applications.
So next month, we'll bring our recommendations forward and meet again in between times with the Curriculum and Programs Committee as well about the teacher recommendations, and we're proud of the work that this group is doing with our teacher teams reviewing these materials.
Thank you. So is there somebody from the Programs Committee that would like to speak to any of this? Have y'all, Ms. Hassett?
We were very excited to be able to hear this on our meeting. They have put in extensive work in trying to evaluate the multiple course offerings that are available. And one thing I think, on a side note, I have been listening to, I wonder if we let our students know that our curriculum team themselves use rubrics. My boys usually see rubrics and they, glaze over. I just think it would be a really interesting thing to let our students know that we actually use these things as very valuable tools to evaluate all the things that y'all are having to choose from, especially 83 courses and the CTE that you have not been able to do before. So they had a really elaborate system in order to gain all of the teachers that are in those courses, get the information, the parents' input, which we didn't have a whole lot of parents clamoring to go read all of those courses. But we're very excited with the process that they've come up with.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I would just add that this is last year we kind of put a prohibition on the acquisition of instructional materials that had Common Core on them or any language like that. This year, because there were no standards for CCSS that were developed in LOAD or CTE, we don't have to put that prohibition on. But this is, I think this is an example of, one, something's unique in LISD. We develop our own curriculum. Textbooks and instructional materials are not curriculum. They're supplemental to the curriculum we developed, and that's what we're asking people to provide input into and making available. This is an example of the board and the staff listening, right? Parents, teachers, community have opportunities to go out and provide input back to us in the process and help us look for blind spots, and this is a great opportunity to do it through March, is what you're saying, for these two areas, languages other than English and career technology. So take advantage of it.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to District of Innovation. Dr. Brockman.
Good evening again. Thank you for this opportunity to bring more information to the table on District of Innovation. While we're getting set up for the presentation, I know that there are several District of Innovation committee members in the audience tonight, and I would like to ask them to stand, as well as my friends up here, and be recognized for their work over the last several months. Thank you very much. All right, so to provide a little bit of background and context, District of Innovation is a concept that was passed during our last legislative session as House Bill 1842. House Bill 1842 does give traditional independent school districts an opportunity to gain some flexibility from a variety of items in the Texas Education Code. Not everything, but a variety of items. In order to access those exemptions, a school district must adopt a local innovation plan and then cannot operate outside of that plan. School districts do have the choice to amend, change, extend, rescind an innovation plan, but they would have to follow the same process utilized to adopt the plan in the first place. And a school district's most recent academic performance rating must be at least acceptable in order to be eligible to even have this conversation. Finally, although it is not considered a waiver, it does replace many of the TEA waiver processes that we have been able to access in the past. So to provide a little context from across the state, and this is as of Friday, this is a number that is continually changing. As of Friday, 128 districts across the state had submitted board-approved DOI plans to the commissioner. If you'll remember, the commissioner does not approve, the local board approves, and then just submit the plans. These districts vary widely in size, geographic location, exemptions that they've chosen to include. But as of Friday, over 1.2 million students are served by the districts that have passed DOI plans. In our local area, Plano, Allen, Capel, Frisco, Denton, Lake Dallas, Richardson, Grand Prairie are included in those 128 districts. Other large districts that have board-approved DOI plans, and for large district, I went with the threshold of 40,000 students or more. Arlington, Big Spring, Clear Creek, Conroe, El Paso, Humble, Katy, Round Rock, and San Antonio. Again, a varied group. And of course, Plano, Frisco are included in that as well. A review of the timeline and the process in LISD. Last March, the 14th, the board passed the required resolution to even begin the DOI process. We held a public hearing on the fundamentals of DOI on April 18th. Again, that was a regularly scheduled board meeting. And then the board approved the specific committee membership on May 16th last spring. The committee then has been working, studying, planning the proposal, took a hiatus over the summer and met twice before the summer and then regrouped back in September. We had a board workshop on January 6th, right after the winter break, with 4 of our committee members sharing their perspectives and experiences with the board at that time. If moving forward, the board does have to notify the commissioner of its intent to vote on a DOI plan. This is a required step, this notification. We have planned a district leadership team presentation, a public meeting for March 21st if needed. This is another required step. And the district leadership team, this is like the campus BLT, but at the district level. This is not Dr. Rogers' leadership team. This is the one that includes the parents and the teachers, etc. And they must pass it by a majority vote. We also have to post the plan on the district website for 30 days. Felt y'all needed the opportunity to see it first. Plan to go up this week. Board voting on a District of Innovation plan on April 10th, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting, if that is the will of the board, and then submitting it to the commissioner. Again, not for approval, but just as a submission. A reminder that our committee included a number of teachers, campus administrators, district administrators, parents, community representatives, like from the Chamber of Commerce, as well as board-appointed members. All areas of the district and levels of campuses were represented. We tried to share that opportunity across as many groups in the district as possible. Again, you approved the specific committee membership in May, and we had 35 members. So our first meeting was in May, shortly after the board meeting. We reviewed as a committee the legislation. What are the required steps in the process? What is a District of Innovation? That general information that the board had access to through the public hearing earlier that spring. In June 8th, based on the request of committee members, we started to study the DOI plans available for review, those that we could find that were already approved by their boards and submitted to the commissioner, or those that were in their 30-day posting period. And we had 10 to 13 plans that we sorted through at that time. We regrouped in September. We looked at what trends were we finding in those plans. Were there some common themes? and then started to discuss those. December 19th, we brought in some district experts to talk about those key trend topics that the committee was interested in learning more about. There were 8 topics at that time we were looking at as a committee. On October 3rd, the committee determined which possible exemptions that they discussed out of those 8 that they wanted to continue pursuing. We reduced the list from 8 to 5. 100% of the meeting participants, there were 25 that night, supported all 5 exemptions if the group was moving forward with a recommendation to go with a DOI status. We met again in late October to discuss and further collaborate on whether or not to pursue a recommendation for District of Innovation status. 22 members were in attendance at that meeting. 20 indicated support for moving forward, with none of the committee members vetoing the plan to move forward. Early November, I met with a small yet brave group of volunteers to begin to draft the important plan language for those recommendations. Because as you know, it isn't just about the exemption, it's about the language around that exemption. And then in February, we came back around after that group had submitted additional thoughts and finalized the language for the specific plan at that time. 17 members were in attendance, with a couple of extra providing input through email, either before or right after that meeting. So here are the committee recommendations for exemptions. One of them is the uniform start date. As you know, we are required by the Texas Education Code to start school not before the 4th Monday of August. The committee is requesting exemption from that requirement, noting that the board still has to approve the calendar annually based on recommendations from the Academic Calendar Committee that is brought together and public feedback on options. So utilizing the same process we have for calendar adoption now, just with the flexibility to start before the 4th Monday in August. The second recommendation for exemption is in minutes of instruction. As you know, new in the last legislative session also was a move from 180 days of instruction to 75,600 minutes of instruction. But there are requirements and limits in how those minutes are distributed. For example, the number of early release days you can have, et cetera, are those limits. The committee would like the board to consider exemption from those requirements, not exemption from having 75,600 minutes for full day programs, but how those minutes are used across the board to allow additional flexibility. Another area where this is impactful is considerations for half-day programs such as pre-K. Another exemption for consideration is the campus behavior coordinator. Again, this was new in the last legislative session. It does require that each campus name a single behavior coordinator. However, exemption from this requirement would allow our campus principals to delegate discipline duties across their assistant principals as appropriate, which is the system of work that we've had in place and large schools do have in place. That discipline duty, if you will, is shared with the assistant principals. It's considered a collaborative approach, with assistant principals working with counselors and families. Teacher certification was another area for exemption, but also please be aware that the committee is limiting that dramatically in scope. And again, it's what's in the plan that governs what the district can do. In the area of teacher certification, the committee is recommending limiting waiving teacher certification to CTE and world languages only, and those language programs would be in non-compliance programs when quality certified candidates are not available. Again, looking first at our quality certified candidates and only reaching into the area of non-certified when they're simply not available.
This would be after the required posting period and candidate interviews. At that time, under the plan, the principal, in collaboration with the human resources administrator, could make a recommendation that the superintendent consider hiring a non-certified applicant and outlining exactly how they are the most qualified, what specific skills, industry standards, et cetera, that they're bringing to the table. And the last exemption that the committee is including in the plan is in regards to probationary contracts. And again, this one is very limited as well. It is narrowly focused on the allowance for a second probationary year for experienced teachers new to LISD. If LISD hires an experienced teacher that has taught 5 out of the last 8 years, then they hire that teacher on a probationary contract, but they can only be on a probationary contract for 1 year. What the plan would allow for is collaboration between the campus principal and the appropriate HR administrator to extend to a second probationary year when it felt it was in the best interests of both the staff member and the students. And again, it would require superintendent approval. The committee did add a safeguard provision of an annual review into the plan. This provision for an annual review is not required by House Bill 1842 or the commissioner's rules, but our committee felt that it was important to allow them to ensure the plan continues to meet the needs of the district moving forward. The committee is then equipped to annually review new ideas, new data, as more plans are approved at local levels across the district, across the state. Also allows for the committee to review the exemptions that are in place. Are they working? Are they not? As well as take suggestions from board and community members that would like another possible exemption reviewed. A local plan can be amended, revised, it can be rescinded or renewed utilizing an outlined process. Again, the committee has to be involved. They make the recommendation. The DCLT, which is that district leadership team, must approve using a simple majority, as they have to right now, with the initial plan. Website posting, public meeting, again, same process as now. And board action, again, requiring a 2/3 majority for any action that would amend, revise, rescind, or renew the District of Innovation plan. And at this time, I would be happy to take any questions that you have.
Are there any questions? Ms. Hassett, do you have a question?
Okay, I have a question on the review process. We currently have a legislative session, which we already have, I can't remember how many bills filed on districts of innovation particularly. Two of them at least, I think, are rescinding the uniform start date. And so when would that district review process take place? Because during the legislative session, there's often a lag time between when it gets out, when it goes to TEA, and how would some of these lag times impact some of the decisions that we've made. One of the other things that I actually really like about one of the bills that's been filed, Senate Bill 606 from Don Huffines, he has filed a bill for testing, that the district is allowed to choose their own testing. Not really sure about the snuff of it passing ESSA, but the idea, if it gets passed, timeline of review specifically on things such as uniform start date that are then themselves timely.
The bills that I have seen addressing the uniform start date provision specifically do talk about districts that already have an approved plan that include a uniform start date exemption. That exemption would last for the duration of the initial plan. But one of the benefits of having an annual review, and the committee's really looked at doing that in the fall, so you have plenty of time to work through the process of making recommendations, getting back through the DCLT, the posting, and the board action with any adjustments to the plan. That's why looking at fall is then at this very first fall, the committee could look at what has actually come from the legislative session that was passed and signed off on that could impact DOI moving forward.
Any other questions? Ms. Prosnick?
So I'm trying to get my head around this committee, as Ms. Hassett referred to. So has someone signed on to be with us for 5 years on a committee? That's kind of how it's presented, that they're going to be sitting on this DOI committee, this hamster wheel, if you will, for 5 years. And I really appreciate your time, but I don't think anybody out there signed up for a 5-year commitment. That's longer than a commitment to the board.
One of the required steps in the process is the board approve the committee. So looking at, let's be realistic, there's no way the committee membership will stay the same. In fact, we have 2 people on the committee that have moved outside the district. So looking at how do we keep some people that want to stay this first year, yet take the opportunity to bring in some new folks that then the next year, again, you're doing that. So over a period of time, you're not facing a situation in 5 years where you don't have anybody left from the original committee, and everybody's had the time, everybody on the committee has had a chance to learn the context and be part of those conversations. You don't want to start from scratch in any year. But you're right. I did not ask for a 5-year commitment.
All right, Mr. Miller, I'm going to let you go in a minute because you have a speech written. So I'm going to see if anybody else, do you have any questions? Ms. Cox?
I'll be shorter than Mr. Miller. I just have a couple questions just for clarification stuff too, but is there a time frame for the adoption of DOI? I mean, does it have to be done now, or is it, how does that work?
There is no required adopting time frame other than the board cannot approve a plan when it has not been posted for 30 days on the website and the DCLT has not voted on it. So both those things would take place before the April meeting. But there's nothing that requires that it be done in a particular time or from start to finish the work has happened.
Okay. And what is the process now if we don't have a certified teacher? Do we apply for a waiver? What is the process now for the district?
I'll let that go to Mr. Bonner.
Well, we certainly strive to hire certified teachers in every instance. If someone is not traditionally certified, we obviously hired alternative certified teachers. There is a district provision, or a state provision, which allows a district a temporary permit for 1 year. I do not recall the last time we did one of those, Ms. Cox. So those are the 3 main ways.
Okay. Keeping going, sorry, thank you. Where, if approved, where would this be on the website? Because sometimes it's hard to find things, so where exactly do you know where we would have this posted on the website for people to see?
In looking where other districts have posted theirs, as I've done quite a bit of hunting over the last several months, the About Us drop-down seems to be a common place for districts to hold it. That's where, like the Facility Advisory Committee work is there. There's a lot of important things that are listed in that drop-down that are going to be easier to find than if we put it in a department webpage.
And then what are the benefits of moving the start date up?
Well, there can be a number of benefits. One of them is actually facing us this year. Our uniform start date for 2017, the 4th Monday of August, is the latest it can possibly be, which is the 28th of August, which pushes the end date of the 17-18 school year well into June, not the middle of June, but well into June. So there's an advantage right there. But also, with an accelerated block calendar, would there be an opportunity at some point to try and move exams before the winter break, finish the semester before the winter break? That is not an option that we have now, just by looking at the number of days in the two halves of the year, if you will. Those are two distinct advantages. Again, until a number of years ago, we had the flexibility as a board, as a school district, to say we're going to waive that provision and we're going to start school when our community has determined we want to start school. We lost that opportunity a number of years ago. They kind of shut the door on that waiver. And there has been, it's asked every year, why do we have to start at this date? Why can't we start earlier? And it has really removed an opportunity for some local control that we once had.
In regards to the campus behavior coordinator, would this be a cost savings to the district?
We do not see it as a cost savings. We're not going to unemploy somebody. Right now, our campus behavior coordinators, I believe, Dr. Coburn, correct me if I'm wrong, they're named as the principal. The campus principal is named as the campus behavior coordinator, which has added some red tape for them that they didn't have before, as some added requirements and duties that in the past they have delegated, but not a cost savings.
No
Time
more,
usage
no more
savings.
principals. Okay. Hang on, I have one more. Oh.
Mr. Schaeferman.
I'm Mr. Schaeferman. Okay, in regards to Mrs. Prosnick's question about the committee, thank you for asking that, but what are you thinking of as a number? Because I get your point of ongoing. Are you thinking, I don't know how many people are on the committee right now, but are you thinking of keeping that same number or increasing that or keeping it the same for the ongoing committee members?
Certainly would be open to conversation and input on that. 35 was the size of the committee, and that was actually a really nice number. It allowed for a nice amount of diversity across the district in representation, as well as types of people, if you will, parents, teachers, administrators, campus and district. Certainly open to changing that. There is not a magic number. There is not a number required by House Bill 1842. Some districts used very small committees. Other districts used large committees. Some districts did not have very much representation. Other districts, like ours, were committed to having that representation. So my preference would be keeping it right about 35. It seemed to really work well, but absolutely can do whatever the board would prefer on that.
Thank you.
You have questions? Ms. Helms?
I just wanted to clarify the amended, revised, rescinded, or renewed using outlined process. That the amended, revised can happen anytime during the 5 years. Can the rescinding happen within that 5 years? We can just decide to do away? That is correct. That is correct. Have you had any conversations with TEA why on their website they're wanting us to become more like charters and charters not to become more like us? Just a question.
I honestly have not had that conversation with TEA. I've had more conversations with colleagues around the district that are engaging in this process, and their boards are interested in various exemptions and why did you choose that and why did you choose that, as opposed to having conversations with TEA about charters.
Were there campus representatives for the teachers to filter this information down to teachers where they would have an understanding of how this would affect them or not affect them?
We had teachers as committee members. We did not ask any of our committee members to be the carry forward and teach others about this. That was not an expectation. We do have
information up on the website, and we gave our teachers first look at that on information, including the exemptions considered and the closeness that we're holding to some of those exemptions.
All right, Mr. Miller. Oh, okay, Ms. Hassett.
I just wanted to say thank you to the committee for all the long hours, and it was a tougher committee, so I just want to say thank you.
All right, Mr. Miller.
I'd echo those thoughts, and I want to thank the committee. And so my comments here are not going to be a surprise to anyone, but I want to explain them in a little more detail. It was we are not voting on DOI tonight. That'll happen next month. So there'll be a viewing period, I guess, or a period to take a look at it. I'm going to lay my comments out here so that they're clear, and the impetus tonight is to really get the calendar decided on. I appreciate Dr. Brockman talk where people come and ask us about the calendar. Why can't we start school sooner? And so it creates a conversation, and in fact, it also creates a perception that we don't have local control. I think it's the same question that comes up, though, on an annual basis where people ask about excused absences. And why is it that if I have a legitimate medical concern, I have to be considered, my child is considered absent or unexcused? And we have to have a conversation, and it takes away local control. There are a lot of things that the legislature has done to us and for us, I guess, that I'm not sure are in our best interest. And for me, the support of a district innovation plan, and it's not innovative at all, is really about how do we improve student achievement, in that we measure student learning so that we can help ensure that students graduate, and what do we do about our staff. So let's talk about our staff. The ATP has been very bold in what they've written about this, and I had the opportunity to be at a lunch with a bit of a dignitary, a former commissioner, on Friday, and he said, in part, this is the legislature's unwillingness to take on the issues that they created. So, for example, the reason we have a uniform start date is because the legislature was lobbied in 2005, and we then went to uniform start date so the lobbyists would win out on a controlled start time. That's a fact. And as a result, instead of changing it with the legislature, we were, in fact, being offered now district innovation, which has changed everything for us and accelerated it because of the unique nature this year of the calendar. But one of the things that I think the staff, again, I'll try and remove the emotion from this. Just think about what the legislature is doing with TRS or TRS Active Care or your payroll deductions, and ask, what is it that the legislature is doing to offer you support as contract teachers or certified teachers? It's great that for kids, the legislature is going to allow public school districts to not have contracts and to not have certifications. Is that what's best for kids? Is it really what's best for kids? At the end of the day, what are we measured on as school boards? We're measured on graduating kids. It's how the state measures us, and it's how you, the community, measures us. And so if in this plan from a staff perspective, what we take advantage of doesn't do anything to support our staff, I think it's questionable unless it does something from student achievement, which I'll talk about in a second. But given our primary responsibility here, and then what you have to do in teaching, the things that, does it help you measure whether students are on grade level with iStation? No, actually, we made that decision. Does it help make sure that next year that we're going to have every student has shown 6 months of progress in reading? Oh, wait, no. That's what the district and staff have done. That's not the legislature. The same legislature that we sit here many times and ask you to help us influence, ask you to help us send letters to, that came up with A through F. The same legislature that came up with A through F is offering us some flexibility. And so some will say, well, Tracy, you're just afraid of the legislature. You don't know, so you're afraid. It's actually because I'm not afraid that I'm willing to say to the legislature that we asked you to go down to Austin last week, and that we went down to Austin. You know, when we went down as a school board and we talked to our legislative delegation, you know how many DOI options we discussed with them? 0. You know how many we asked for advocacy on? 0. You know how many times in our legislative agenda we've talked about these 5 things? 0. Why? Somebody put them on the table and said, wouldn't these be nice to have? They are. It would be great to start school when early. I get it. There's no question there's some value in that. The question is it worth what we line ourselves up with? A legislature that we have asked you to help us influence. That in most cases, if you look at your retirement, you're suspect. Or if you look at TRS or the pay grades from TEA, or if you look at what the agency's asking you to do, you're suspect. And so now we're saying, hey, they're smart enough to offer this. And the fact is, it was mentioned, this is to be like charters. Yet charters are not held accountable like we are and you are. They don't have an elected body. They don't have to have open meetings. They don't have to have a food service fund and an INS fund and all these other things that are presented to you, and a CAFR's done at the end of the year and has to be voted for by an elected body. They don't have to have those things. It is a different environment. So to say that we'll take advantage of those provisions is, in my opinion, not helpful. So let's talk about student achievement, because at the end of the day, if it promotes that, then while the teachers are important, in all due respect, if student achievement were to benefit it, then we should look at it. Yet we just heard that as it relates to waivers, I think it was temporary permits for certain positions. I believe it was LOTE or CTE. None. And we haven't been asked for any additional money to hire LOTE teachers, certified teachers, right? It may exist, but it's not been quantified to us. So again, the pressure we're under is the calendar. The calendar should have been out in January, February. It's not, and so we're under pressure. To sign up for something that I have publicly said, and those of you on the committee who went to the workshop, that I think it needs more vetting. If we're going to do it, more needs to happen. And I'm not saying this because I'm afraid. I'm saying this, I hope, like everybody, to protect you all and to protect our students. All of us have been consistent about our desire to protect our students and our staff. There's no inconsistency at this table. The question is this the way to do it? What does this afford us? If we don't do it, I'll tell you this, Mike Morath there's nothing he will say to in the communication vehicle about district innovation performance of the districts back to the legislature is through the commissioner. There's nothing Mike Morath is going to be say to the commissioner about LISD and our results that will be improved or better or worse because of district innovation. It's not that case. And by the way, as it relates to termination, do you know that the commissioner at any point in time can end DOI? So let's just say we've taken advantage of certain things. We've seen student achievement, and we've got some economic benefit of the positions we've hired because these teachers who are not certified are going to come in your job grades. I mean, that's the way we're going to do it, right? Non-certified teachers come into your job grades that you've worked for those certifications on, right? And so now we're going to have a commissioner that, who knows, if it's going well, he might say, oh, we need to stop it. Now that's the tinfoil hat on me, right? But the fact is we don't know. And nobody's provided any evidence of improved student achievement or any improved things around our staff. And so for me, I just want people to know when I do not vote for option C or D in the calendar, it's not because I'm not listening. It's not because I'm not listening. It's because I don't think that this is the right time. And there are plenty of stories I could play out that have been unanswered. I just think we are not ready. And it's no disrespect to the people that have worked on it or our staff. It's just that there's too much unknown in this to really say that this is a direction we should go. LISD is a fantastic school district. People move here for LISD. There's nothing this legislature, in their infinite wisdom, as all-knowing as they are about the great things that we should do in public ed, that they would say that they are offering us that improves things for us. I'm just telling you. And I don't say that as an arrogant trustee. I say that as a trustee that sits here and, like everyone else, puts his vote on the table with transparency and with an administration that does the same. And there's nothing here that improves things for LSD. As such, let's focus on what we need to focus on. How do we take care of our staff more effectively going forward in light of the pressure that you're under from a legislature that can needle you here and there with your benefits and those other things? Let's look at student achievement and look, if we need teachers, let's look at where we have waivers that we can use those waivers today. There are other means to accomplish the end. I would just prefer that at this time we don't hold up the calendar anymore, not a calendar vote with well, it depends on this, and then it may change if this doesn't happen. We get this done. What we decide to do with DOI later on, we'll have to decide that, but that's my position. I will, all that to say, I can be swayed if somebody can start to help quantify this for me. They can show me where there are outcomes that are predictable, that we can base on how we can improve our ability to graduate students or just take care of students. Maybe it's little things like making sure kids are fed through the programs we have with Airmark, or they come to school and they're not tired, or we provide a safe learning environment, those types of things. If it lines up with those, then great. But all of that are a means to an end of great teachers taking care of students, and that's why we're called trustees, is to do that. And it doesn't mean that we don't have good people thinking about this outside of us. Just, I think, for me, that's my charge, is to cast my vote in a protective way here, and that's how I will do it.
Ms. Prosnick? Yes.
So sorry, I do have a question. And it's more on process. The board does have the opportunity to send this back to the committee if we don't agree with all the exemptions. Am I correct or am I incorrect?
That's accurate.
Okay.
But know that, just a caveat to that, then when you send it back to the committee, some of those timelines then have to start over, the 30-day posting and some of those pieces, but yes.
Ms. House?
I just want to clarify something for Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, it was discussed when you all went on to meet. We had to split up, and unlike what a lot of people think, we don't sit around on a daily basis and talk to each other and don't always share things. So this is the first time Mr. Miller is hearing this, but I will tell you that one of the legislators was quizzed on DOI. He was quizzed on DOI. He was quizzed on A through F. And I will tell you, he didn't have any real answers. And it made an impact on me. It made such an impact on me, especially when I went down a week later for the PTA rally day. And after confirming with the Texas PTA to be a speaker, he did not show. So that spoke volumes to me. Some of what he said wasn't going to happen. I heard, again, there was a huge lobby to take that out. And so just the fact that, I still consider myself a PTA mom. And just the fact that he did not show, called that morning and declined, spoke volumes. Because if you can't face us and answer questions, then shame on you. So, anyway, but it was discussed. You just weren't there.
Ms. Hassett?
I just want to tag on, just not to DOI, but Senator Taylor, because Senator Taylor was supposed to speak at the PTA rally. We accidentally had to leave early to go and meet with one of our representatives before the rally ended. So as we were walking into the building, who do we see right at the very beginning? Senator Taylor. Oh, hi. Good morning, Senator. How are you? And he was right there. So he could have gone to the rally, which was right around the corner. I'm just saying.
You're not bitter, are you?
I was not bitter until he physically pulled his security guard and turned away from us. So, yeah, then it got a little bitter.
Well, just my comments on DIY, I've been a proponent from the very beginning. I think I appreciate the work and the diligence of the committee. I think I think the vetting process has been strong. There was a lot of discussion and input. I think the plan we have is strong and allows us really to just take some opportunities if we need them and when we need them. The uniform start date is actually the one that interests me the most because it is one of our legislative priorities, and it has been since I've served on the board under the umbrella of local control. So to me, that's one that I I keep coming back to that one because I think it's ridiculous, for one, that the legislature controls that and that we wouldn't have control of that. And I take pause with the fact that if we don't move forward with that and we don't accept a plan for DOI, that's going to be a lot of fun when everyone around us has accepted a DOI plan that includes an early start date, and they're getting out in May and we're getting out in June, and that's not what it's all about. But the reality of it is that's a big contributing factor to what's going on here. And to me, it's the one item that really speaks to the advocacy agenda that we've had all along as it relates to local control. I love the language. I felt like this committee has been very specific in their language, and that we've kind of created some protections or maybe some areas of ease, so people don't get, or I don't want our teachers to feel like there's a measure to undermine them or undercut what's happening, because that's not who we are. So I like the language. I like the annual review. I think it's a really strong plan. Dr. Rogers, I know that you meet with teacher representatives on a regular basis, and so can you share with us some of the feedback that you've had from them?
Yes, actually, I do meet with teacher associations about every 6 to 8 weeks, and actually a couple of them are in the audience, and I believe both were on the committee. Is that right? So we've certainly had some opportunities to discuss this at my superintendent meetings. I don't want to totally categorize, but I know they've always had some leeriness of the issue, and yet they've always made it clear that they have trust in me and my position, trust with this board. Certainly I think the certification issue is a question. Is okay? Is that opening Pandora's box? Which is why we certainly wanted that exemption written very tightly. We actually even when Dr. Brockman brought it to us, we actually tightened it even more, adding things. But I will tell you, I asked Ms. Brim to reach out to our reps, and they voiced even more concern. In an email to them that she forwarded to me, I wanted to make sure I gauged their input. So their concerns were a little more direct in the email that recently was forwarded versus our face-to-face conversations. But they've always expressed some concerns. But I would say that them and others, as Dr. Brockman talked about, had the opportunity to veto the plan as it was being worked on, and did not, at least at that time.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Get back to my agenda. Okay. All right. Well, then we will move on to action. And this would be the consideration of notification to the Commissioner of Education of Board's intention to vote on adoption of proposed District of Innovation Plan. Dr. Brockman, do you want to kind of, just in the context of what we're doing here, kind of explain this a little?
Absolutely. Thank you. One of the required steps in the very prescribed process, if you will, is notification to the Commissioner of the Board's intent to vote on the plan before they vote on the plan. So while certainly this can happen in a variety of ways, picking up on what some other districts have done, opted to make that an action item tonight, and that is solely to approve or not notifying the Commissioner, making that required notification.
Are there any questions about that, comments? I mean, part of the understanding behind this, or Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask if that's required within the statute that we vote. I mean, I guess we have to send him an intention to vote. That's a requirement. Does it say why?
Yeah, and I think, Mr. Miller, as Dr. Brockman said, it's not required that it has to be voted on as an action item. There's a lot of different ways that it can be done, but we, whether it would be a letter from the board president or whatever, but we just felt it was best to do it this way, as some other districts had done.
So, Dr. Rogers, so what is if we, excuse me. So what is the value of this item tonight, given, we had the discussion, we need to get to the calendar. What's the value of the board sending this to the commissioner?
Ultimately, I think the value from my perspective is, hey, where are we at? I mean, really, as we've talked about, with the board is, and certainly you rightfully state, we need to put some of this to rest. And so this is a way for us to sort of gauge where we're at in the process. And, if we want DOI to be pushed back or not do that, then, my recommendation would be to not pass this action item. But as you said, we've got to adopt a calendar, and I totally agree with that.
Well, in light of that, then, if this item is for notification that we're going to vote on this, which I assume is the next meeting, without presupposition as to the vote on the outcome of DOI, I would move to approve providing the required notice to the Commissioner of Education that the Lewisville Independent School District Board of Trustees' intention to vote on adoption of the proposed local innovation plan in April.
Okay, that's a motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Any comments or questions? Yes.
So you are voting in the affirmative to provide the letter to the commissioner?
Yes, ma'am. I'm voting in the affirmative to provide the letter with the intention of, since there seems to be some intention, some desire to provide some further direction or closure, I certainly will then intend at that time to vote no on DOI to put it to bed.
Okay. Well, I understand this meets the law. I have spoken with Mr. Cranover and done my own research, and I definitely agree that this meets law. To me, this doesn't meet procedure. I definitely like a lot of the things with the DOI plan. I think it's a very well-tailored plan, like you said. It's got a lot of good language, and I actually think the start date does have that student component of student achievement in it, and I like the annual review. My concern with this is the procedure of voting for it before calendar things can change between now and then, and so I have a procedural.
Any other comments or questions? I mean, I feel like this one, I mean, we can't, calendar, like it or not, is tied to DOI. And calendar needs resolution. We met when we had a workshop in January, we had lots of discussion about DOI and what that meant. There was no move from the board as a group, as a majority, to send it back to committee, which, I think then it became you either accept DOI or you don't. And then that's the point here. But I think that the vote on the calendar has to be positioned based on your thoughts on DOI. That's, so. Okay. Any other comments or questions? None? Okay. All right. So we have our motion by Mr. Miller and a second by Ms. Prosnick. All those in favor? That is Ms. Timish and Ms. Sheffield and Mr. Miller and Ms. Prosnick. All those opposed? And that's Ms. Hassett and Ms. Cox and Ms. Sells. All right. And then, so our next item, Dr. Brockman, before we make a motion, is there anything you'd like to add to our academic calendar? Could you maybe just give us the update from the most recent survey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we had 13,882 stakeholders complete the ranking of the calendar options. And if you will remember, we asked people once they reviewed some information on District of Innovation to rank the 4 choices, not just say this was their first choice, but rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. Provided those full rankings to you. Calendar A received a first place ranking from 20.7% of our participants, with Calendar B receiving 9.12% of the first place ranking from those 13,882. Calendar C, which was an earlier start date of the 21st, which was a Monday, received first place ranking from 36.62% of our stakeholders, with Calendar D, which was a midweek start the week before, receiving 33.57% of the first place rankings that were available from our stakeholders. You have the full chart of the rest of the second, third, fourth place rankings, but the first place was probably the most significant number for review.
Okay. Are there any, before we make an official motion on the calendar, are there any questions that you'd like to ask or any comments that you'd like to make? None? Okay, well then I need a motion to approve one of those calendars.
Sheffield, I move to approve Calendar A as presented by administration.
Mr. Miller, that's a motion by Mr. Miller and a second by Ms. Hassett. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? That's Ms. Sells, Ms. Timish, Ms. Cox, Mr. Miller, Ms. Hassett, and Ms. Prosnick. And all those opposed? And that's Ms. Sheffield. Okay. Our next item is our construction manager at risk. Mr. Ball, you're back.
Thank you, Ms. Sheffield. This item is the request for qualifications for construction manager at risk for the summer of 2017 Package C, and that package would include finish out of the Boland property that's currently under negotiations for the district to purchase. And for this process, we advertised the request for qualifications. We had 3 responses. We had a 2-stage process where we evaluated the respondents and determined that one of the respondents we didn't feel was qualified to do the work. So we invited the remaining 2 respondents for interviews. We interviewed both of those firms. In the midst of that, we asked them to submit their fees as a part of the second stage of the process. So we have interviewed both the firms, evaluated their fees, and are recommending the firm of Jackson Construction Company for this work. And part of your package, you have the tabulation of the fees that were submitted and the 2 evaluation documents that were used. And at the time we submitted the request for qualifications and advertised it, we expected fully that the purchase of this property would be completed. However, those negotiations are ongoing, and so we are requesting that a contingency be added to this recommendation, and that is that the board would approve this subject to and contingent upon the successful completion of the purchase of the property. And with that said, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Are there any questions?
I just want to make a comment. I know our choices are becoming slimmer and slimmer with construction and people needing construction, so it does address some concerns of, are these people qualified or are our choices slim? So I just wanted to point out, some of the things that were in our book that this company has done work with the district before. They are experienced, and they understand fast-paced work for the summer, which is very important of getting our kids back in school in a timely manner. So did want to discuss that.
Thank you, Ms. Cox.
Mr. Miller.
I just want to reiterate that, and I think that two things. One, again, the team continues to do a great job of going through this process. It's an area where we can't pick on professional fees, which is odd. We can't pick a provider, but we tend to pick the right provider, and then the fees seem to be pretty good for us. So I don't know. Maybe this is just the art and science of the work that Jason and the team and Randy do. But the other thing I would say is this, just so people get used to it, this is a very similar process to everything that we would do under current funding or future funding that we may have. We go through 4 or 5 steps for every project that we do. We sit as a team with the staff, Ms. Timish and Ms. Cox and I, and we go through their analysis of what they came up with and why, and we answer some questions just like the other committees, right? The Finance Committee, I think that Ms. Timish talked about, and the Curriculum Committee that we're on, and we have a chance to vet it out before it comes to the board, and that's, I think, a very good process that a lot of times people don't see that. And again, this is one of a couple more decisions that we'll make in this process. So there's a lot of transparency in the way that we go about doing this. And by the way, thanks in part to the legislature that puts that on us, unlike the charter schools that don't have that. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in.
Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the selection of Jackson Construction Company as the construction manager at risk for the summer 2017 construction projects. Package C, and authorize the superintendent or his designee to execute a contract with that firm, contingent on the completion of the purchase of subject property.
Thank you, Ms. Timish. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Cox. It's a motion by Ms. Timish and a second by Ms. Cox. Any other further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, and our next item is the consider approval of superintendent district goals for school year 2017-18. Those are in our board book. Of course, that's following our workshop that we had where we completed our evaluation with Dr. Rogers and then followed up with goals based on that for the following year. Are there any comments or questions that need to be made, or would someone like to make a motion? Okay.
I move to approve the superintendent and district goals for school year 2017-2018 as presented by administration and discussed at the February 9th board workshop.
Thank you, Ms. Sells. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Hassett. It's a motion by Ms. Sells and a second by Ms. Hassett. Any other comments or questions?
I just add, if this motion passes, which I expect that it will, first of all, I appreciate the staff and the work that we went through in the workshop and doing Dr. Rogers' evaluation. I think he's going to stick around for another year. We're excited to have him. I know a lot of you agree with that. But really, these goals are as good as I've seen since I've been a trustee. The way that they're organized, the way they're focused on student achievement, the way they're focused on staff. This is really a good opportunity to understand what we're going to be focusing on next year. Really some solid things on measuring student performance and focusing on student outcomes that have real value to what we're trying to accomplish. And I think moving that magic middle, Jenny, I'm pretty sure that iStation stuff helps do that. So thank you, staff.
All right. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right. Before we move into the consent portion, are there items that we need to pull? Yes. Ms. Prosnick? A to B4. All right, are there others? Cox?
I'd like to pull two, I guess, 2A2 and 2A4.
2A2 and 2A4. 4 and then, okay.
2A2,
and then
outdoor school, and
2B4. Okay, so could someone make a motion to approve all those other than pulled?
I move to approve the consent agenda items except for K2, B4, 2A2, 2A4 as presented by administration.
Thank you, Ms. Hassett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. It's a motion by Ms. Hassett and a second by Mr. Miller. Any other comments or question? All those in favor? All those in favor? Okay. And that's unanimous. All right. So the first one we'll address is 2A2. Ms. Cox, would you like to speak to that item?
I make a motion to approve the RFP number 249617 outdoor school.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Do I have a second? Is that Ms. Sells? All right, thank you. That's a motion by Ms. Cox and a second by Ms. Sells. Ms. Cox, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, my question just is, for the district, is what would we need to do to allow the children, more kids to go to Lisdola? I see that they can't accommodate all the schools, so what would we need to do to be able to do that? Have more students be able to go to Lisdola?
Ultimately, some of that would help be addressed by the bond proposal in more restroom upgrades. We're working on ensuring that we have enough trail space to accommodate students, and we think we do, but the restrooms are a concern right now for being able to meet all the student needs that would be out there. So the restroom upgrades would be a big help in order to accommodate more fifth graders.
Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right. Do I have a motion for 2A4?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve RFP number F1004-17, 2017-20 Footstep Van Food Truck.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. It's a motion by Ms. Cox and a second by Mr. Miller. Ms. Cox, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I think this is a great idea. I'm very interested to see how the program will come about. I'm very excited about it. But my question is, I know a lot of the churches, they make peanut butter sandwiches or sandwiches for some of our needy kids that need food. So how will that collate with the truck in the summer? And then how, as they're going around, how will they plan for waste? So how are we going to address that waste cost? Because let's face it, some of that food spoils quickly. So I'm just worried about some of the cost factors of all that and how we're collaborating with our churches and groups that are taking meals out to the students already.
Great question. I know your heart, Ms. Cox, is to make sure we take care of those kids. And I'll probably ask Alicia to come up, but I will tell you that one of the things that excites me about the food truck is the summer feed program. There's a lot of other ways that this food truck can be used during the year. But for us to be able to park it at apartment complexes and other places to feed kids in the summer that otherwise might not have a nutritious meal is certainly one of our goals on it. But Alicia, can you answer maybe some of the other?
Absolutely, and those are both great questions. So for the first question, we would identify using a map that TDA and the Health Human Services Department puts together each year to identify those almost food deserts in the summer where students are not able to get to an identified location. So we would use that mapping capability to be able to identify those parks and even some of our own campuses that we might be able to utilize the playgrounds or different avenues without having to open the campus to be able to serve those populations that don't.
Will there be like a designated time? I mean, so people will know, okay, I'm gonna eat at noon. I know the food truck's gonna be there, so
Exactly.
you'll be on a set route and a
Yes.
time for these kids.
Yes, we're projecting to do on average 3 different stops, 20 to 30 minute stops per each on a route, and then we will absolutely have to advertise those locations and create flyers and promotional collateral to be able to communicate those stops and when and where they will be.
Will that be before school's out?
Absolutely. So it won't be obviously this school year this
Right.
summer because
Right.
it'll take a while to get the truck. But yes, and we'll do that through our normal avenues of communicating to students. And then I think there was a second part of your question about food waste, and actually the food truck will help with our food waste because we'll have hot holding and cold holding capabilities on the food truck, and also the capability to prepare the food on site. So the quality of the food will be higher because it'll be a live production, and anything that we don't produce we'll be able to immediately store and take back and save for the next menu cycle.
Mr. Miller?
Thanks, Alicia. I think this is great partnership with Airmark, Dr. Rogers, what we're doing to help make sure kids are fed. As Ms. Rapp will talk about, kids that are hungry or don't come to school or tired or scared have a hard time learning, and so this feeds into that. Some of us met with a realtor group today. This was one of the things that, there are a number of things we have going on in our fantastic community. This is one where it's a real positive. The question, because I know this would be funded, I believe, through the federal grants that we get, how does that, I'm just thinking transactionally, and, we could talk about this later, Dr. Rogers, but you market to a multiple dwelling unit, you show up at Thursday at noon, school is out, and you feed kids, and invariably you're going to have some little ones who come who haven't got a purchased meal or a prepaid plan or something. How does that work out? The primary payment for someone who signed up, and then when you got some little kind of tag-alongs and you want to make sure that they're taken care of.
So if you're speaking to our summer food service program, anyone 18 years and under are automatically free. So there won't be any type of monetary or account exchange for that meal. It's basically a tally mark system, and you don't have to have a form of ID. It's just if you look to be 18 and under, then you're automatically qualified to participate in the program.
Well, and I think it's important, Mr. Miller, to know, and Alicia can expand on this if needed, that we do summer feed programs at our schools already, where there's summer school and so on. So this is just a way to broaden
mobility.
Yeah.
And reach those students that aren't able to have a mode of transportation to get to those
Awesome.
camps.
Really good.
You had a question?
I know Ms. Sells did too. So for the food truck, I know that we have love packs, and those provide meals to a significant number of our campuses across the district. Piggybacking on Ms. Cox, we are going to continue to partner with, you said it would go to about 3 locations during the day, but I know that we have more than that need. So does a kid who needs a meal getting it on Monday but not Tuesday through Friday? Because because it seems like we would have more than 3 locations. How does that work?
We're still trying to map out where those locations are, and also partner with our churches and our open campuses. And so as we discover where those pockets of areas are that would be best served and we would be able to capture the highest amount of participation, then we would be able to better route our locations. But because the food truck won't be in place until next school year, we're almost waiting on the timing of the planning.
So just as you're projecting, are you looking at going to an area every day for 5 days, or just
every day for 5 days?
So you'd go to 3 locations Monday through Friday, but only 3.
For breakfast and lunch, correct.
For breakfast and lunch.
And there's the potential to do more if the participation and the need of the community warrants it.
Okay, so then and we will be feeding anybody that comes to the truck, whether or not they're a student in LISD.
Correct, yes.
Ms. Sells?
You answered one of my questions. It was who would be staffing the truck. It would be Aramark employees, but then I wanted to know if you had any partnerships with the churches or any of our other civic organizations. We have some amazing ones in this district that I'm sure would step up and maybe not do all week, but maybe one day at one location. And so just you kind of answered that there.
And that's a great idea as well. We are also partnering with, of course, the Colony High School's culinary program as well to give those students another aspect of food service experience.
Perfect.
Well, and I'd just like to say Alicia comes from a district where she was part of a district that had a food truck, so she brings that extra expertise to us as we start this program.
Mr. Miller?
Dr. Rogers, were you certified to drive a food truck back when you had your CDL?
They would not let me in a food truck.
Okay. Because I'm sure Alicia does have her driver's permit. But on a serious note, I hope this expands really wildly for us. Just another way to lead. Just curious about the look of the bus. Is this going to have LISD, real innovation, limitless opportunities, or is it going to be something cool where it doesn't? No. I said, or is it going to have something cool that doesn't scare them away because they're going to think school, LISD? So. Well, I know everybody, your boys love to go to school, I know, but
Stop talking, Mr. Miller. You're digging a hole.
We are working on the graphic design, but we do plan to have a play off of the LISD acronym, with it being called Lewisville Innovative Street Dining.
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, so we're ready for the vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, I'd like a motion, or I need a motion on 2B4.
Ms. Sheffield, I make a motion for the renewal of RFP number 2454-16, the awards banquet facility, products and service.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Hassett. All right, Ms. Prosnick, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. Actually, I'm going to vote against my motion. I had a question, and it wasn't answered in board book, and I just want to know, was this brought before any of our board committees?
Amanda, the communications committee did not discuss this. No.
I was really disappointed because when I looked at this last year, the board gave very specific direction that they wanted to hear about this in January and not in March. And that frustrates me. It frustrated me when I sat out there, and it really frustrates me when I sit up here, because I feel like that was direction, and it wasn't listened to, and it was affirmed by current administration that's sitting up here. And I don't know if you want to speak to that as to why it wasn't, but I would really like to know.
Yeah, great question. You know, to me, that's not acceptable, and I'll take the responsibility for it. So, last year when the board did discuss this, they wanted to look at different venues and the cost, and so certainly in the future, we'll make sure that's happened. We've already talked to purchasing to make sure that it comes to you a lot sooner than in March, and we've already talked to Ms. Brim about maybe even having the board communications committee look at the venue. Ultimately, the employee banquet is your function, and so we're certainly okay with whatever the board would want to do with that in the future. But please, I'm sorry, but please understand there aren't many venues that can host 1,000+ people too. So I mean, it's not an easy fix. But I'll take full responsibility for it.
I appreciate you taking the responsibility for it. I guess at the last year's meeting, it was asked, can we look at perhaps doing something different? And Ms. Haas was the one who answered the questions, and she said, last year was Ms. Brim's first year. She wanted to see what the event looked like, and then she would make changes. And I got the same answer this year. Ms. Brim wants to look at it this year and then see what changes want to be made. This is $85,000. This is not a small amount of money. And I want a timeline. I want you to commit then at least to a timeline and to when that committee is going to meet and what they're going to look at, because I would prefer, me speaking, I would prefer an event where we could do it for all of our staff. We are talking about less than 20% of our staff that attend. And that's if all 1,000 are staff members, and most aren't. They're spouses or guests. I want to recognize the excellence that is in this district. I want to make that very clear. I am voting against this more on the process in which it was done and how, once again, I feel like this is, I will quote a trustee from last year, we are hamstringed to make this decision.
And And what I will promise you, and actually Ms. Brim and I have already talked about this, is by September of 17, the Board Communications Committee will meet to discuss this.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Ms. Cox?
Yeah, just, and I understand, Ms. Prosnick, we did talk about this last time, and I think maybe surveying our teachers, I think staff does need to be rewarded for the hard work they do, and I'm all about having a banquet or something. But I know we'd also talked about maybe surveying and seeing what other options they might like, whether it be a luncheon or whether it be divided up. But I think those options need to be looked at as well.
Any other comments, questions? I will say I agree that you're right. That was said last year, and I sat up here and I didn't remember it. So, I guess we offer grace where we can, and I don't think it was intentional. I do think the communications department did vet out other options, but I think, like as Dr. Rogers stated, we're dealing with a large number of people. I think that some of the discussions and that we have had as a committee are about if we make substantial changes, what does that look like? And I think that is a larger process. And I think that, one recommendation that's been made is that maybe there's an opportunity, because this is a board function, that maybe in the early fall we have a workshop to discuss what it is that the board wants from a banquet. Because certainly inviting more people is a larger cost. If we remove people from the equation, then that's also a very different event. So
What is September?
we've already discussed it. Yeah, that's been a discussion point. So that would be probably would happen in early fall.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
So anyway, but it is a great event, and I think it's appreciated by staff, and I think that the communication team is looking to make some changes that I think will be appreciated. So, okay, are there any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? And that's Ms. Sells, Ms. Timish, Ms. Cox, Ms. Sheffield, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Hassett. All those opposed? That's Ms. Prosnick. All right, if there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is now 10:30. Thank you all for joining us. Enjoy your spring break.
Yesterday.